Chapter 2091. When these Hongmeng auras dissipated, the Luohua tribe leader and the people behind her also arrived and began to confront the people of Lin Meng Polar region. So strong, Hai Qingyan looked at the people who were attacking one after another. He couldn't help but widen his eyes as he looked at them again. Jianshi-san, Long Yuan, Hua Lei, and Hua Yin. There was no doubt that these four people were the four with the most potential among the people of the younger generation who came from the Luohua tribe. Hai Qingyan said in a low voice, "I still have some impression of the person next to Swordsman. He was the one who followed Longchen back then. I didn't expect him to be so strong." There are also the famous Hua Lei and Hua Yan sisters of the Luohua tribe. Hai Qingling nodded and said, "It seems that the Luohua tribe was able to survive the first attack of the Lin Meng Polar region because of these two sisters, right?" Hai Qingyan said, "Yes, I heard that these two sisters found the Luohua divine jade in the small spiritual world. I don't know if you still remember, but at that trade fair, the Luohua divine jade that everyone thought was useless was actually the treasure of the Luohua tribe. It's a treasure." Hearing this, Hai Qingling frowned and said, "Why do I remember that this Luohua divine jade was obtained by Longchen? Because of this, I remember that he had a grudge with the rock tribe? It seems that there is such a thing. I didn't expect Longchen to have such good eyesight when he was in the small spiritual world." Hai Qingyan sighed and said, "If it wasn't for that, he wouldn't have been able to achieve what he has today. Our Hongmeng Polar lands being under his control can be considered a blessing in disguise." Hai Qingling let out a long sigh and said slowly, "It's a pity that they came a little late. If they had come a little earlier, Yun Qi Luo would have seen their figures. How good would that have been?" When Hai Qingyan heard this, he felt a little helpless. For a moment, he didn't know what to say. On the other side, the patriarchs of the Luohua tribe and Zishu tribe looked at the great elder of the Tao God Tower. Patriarch Zishu said, "Great elder of the Tao God Tower? Seeing is believing. It seems that there will be an inevitable battle between us today." The great elder of the Tao God Tower narrowed his eyes and said, "Patriarch of the Zishu tribe, Patriarch of the Luohua tribe, and so many Hongmeng Tianjing experts of your tribes. Not bad, not bad, not bad. It saves us from attacking your cities. Today, the battle between our two polar regions." As soon as he finished speaking, two figures, one black and one white, flew out from the black cloud behind the great elder of the Tao God Tower and circled around the great elder. It seemed that after a period of recuperation, the black and white figures had recovered from the injuries they sustained during the battle with Yun Qi Luo. In this way, a Tao God Tower was formed on Lin Meng's side. The great elder took the lead, and the black and white figures supported him. Many Hongmeng Tianjing experts began to fight against the Hongmeng Polar region's experts. It seemed that neither Patriarch Zishu nor Patriarch Luohua tribe had any intention of communicating with the great elder of the Tao God Tower. After all, the great elder of the Tao God Tower was the culprit behind the destruction of several large tribes in Hongmeng Polar regions. Longchen was closer to the great elder. Longchen looked around and turned to look at Jianshi-san. Jianshi-san immediately understood and shook his head slowly at Longchen. Longchen felt the vast sword chi that still remained in the sky, but Jianshi-san did not respond. In other words, this sword chi did not come from Jianshi-san. Longchen then looked at the siblings, Hai Qingyan and Hai Qingling. These two siblings naturally did not have the tacit understanding that Longchen and Jianshi-san had. Naturally, they did not know what Longchen was hinting at. For a moment, the two siblings were also in a daze. Well. Now that the enemy was in front of them, Longchen had no choice but to think about it. What did the Tao God Tower do to Zhu Ziyin? Tell me. Longchen said anxiously. The great elder smiled and said, "If you want to know the answer, why don't you go to the Tianfeng tribe and take a look? Zhu Ziyin is there right now." As soon as he finished speaking, Longchen's figure trembled. From the great elder's smile, Longchen knew that there was something wrong with Zhu Ziyin, who was in the Tianfeng tribe at this moment. However, Longchen could not tell what exactly was wrong. Everything would have to wait until Longchen saw Zhu Ziyin. Longchen said, "In that case, I'll kill you first, and then go to the Tianfeng tribe." What a big tone! As soon as his voice fell, a black mass of qi suddenly flashed in the Great Elder's eyes. Then, a thick layer of killing intent spread out. The vibrating Hong Meng's qi suddenly gathered behind the Great Elder. Then, in an instant, the Great Elder's palm turned. The rich Hong Meng's qi was added to a strange curse seal. Without much preparation, the curse seal rushed out and went straight for Longchen. It seemed that this was the Great Elder's true strength. This should be the first time that the Great Elder showed his technique in front of the people of the Hongmeng Polar region. For a moment, the Hongmeng Tianjing experts of the Falling Flower tribe and the Zishu tribe could not help but be shocked. Before Longchen could completely react, the curse seal condensed by the Great Elder was not far away from Longchen. It spread out in all directions, and at this moment, the space was completely torn apart. In the face of such a fierce technique, especially when he did not know where the real trump card of this technique was, Longchen was unable to come up with a countermeasure. After all, the Great Elder's strength was indeed far higher than Longchen's. Stop! The brilliance of the curse seal scattered into the surrounding nothingness, and then there was a tearing sound that involved Hongmeng. Then, as the curse seal flew, it condensed more brilliance, going back and forth endlessly. Longchen seemed to have seen something, as if someone had grasped his heartstrings, and he suddenly understood. This curse seal seemed to have a huge convergence of Hongmeng's qi, and it looked very much like a Hongmeng technique, but its foundation was a spirit technique. Although Longchen was not too sure now, Longchen had experienced too many similar situations in the past, and Longchen was always right. Therefore, Longchen believed that this time would be no exception. Suddenly, Longchen radiated the spirit power in his body, and with the momentum of breaking, he cast a spirit technique. Longchen's spirit power was originally stronger than others, and coupled with the spirit training method taught by Sky Dragon, Longchen was confident that if the Great Elder really attacked with a spirit technique, Longchen was confident that he could block it. Chapter 2092. A wave of spirit energy rose from the clouds. Subsequently, a layer of mist that caused the hearts of others to tremble was formed amidst this rapidly changing situation. After which, this wave of spirit energy did not make any sound. It had been unleashed in an instant. It was such a violent impact, but because of the short time, the surrounding people did not forget to think deeply. Then, in the face of the Great Elder's seal brilliance, Longchen recalled the spirit technique he had learned in the Longmeng Utopia. Although he had not been able to use it yet, at this time, Longchen seemed to have no better choice. Heavenly power. As his spirit power spread and closed, it directly condensed several incomparably violent and pure energy blasts through the seal brilliance, and when these energy blasts came into contact with the Great Elder's seal brilliance, they disappeared in the blink of an eye. Naturally, the Great Elder's curiosity was piqued when he saw this. How is this possible? The Great Elder said in surprise, then his eyes narrowed and he stared at Longchen. When his expression recovered a little, the Great Elder hissed, "You've learned a spirit technique?" When Longchen heard this, he smiled slightly, and then he faced the Great Elder's seal brilliance again with a little more confidence. Manipulating the spirit power that had been completely condensed into a technique, Longchen aimed at the Great Elder's seal brilliance, and without any explanation, he pushed it heavily. Boom! When Longchen manipulated the spirit power to completely attach to the Great Elder's seal brilliance, the Great Elder's face could not help but turn gloomy. At this moment, the Great Elder could not care about anything else and hurriedly rushed back, as if he was hiding from something. But things did not go as he wished. Before the Great Elder could really move, the surrounding space suddenly became distorted, and several energy blasts from the Great Elder's seal brilliantly scattered in all directions, directly forming a whirlpool in the air. On the other side of the vortex, an even more powerful and astonishing spirit power attacked. This power immediately shattered the spirit power that had yet to disperse around the first elder. Clang! The spirit power that swept over was strangled, and when a slightly explosive hiss sounded, followed by the sound of shattering energy blasts, the surrounding chakra vortexes directly covered the entire sky at a speed visible to the naked eye. The Great Elder's figure had only flown a few dozen feet before he was forcibly pulled back by the energy blasts. Seeing this scene, the First Elder naturally did not sit still and wait for death. He immediately took out an even more majestic force. In an extremely short period of time, it surrounded his body and formed a layer of light barrier that was able to withstand most of the impact, directly allowing him to move forward. He had already left that troublesome place under the crushing pressure of the spirit power. Spirit spell. This is really a spirit spell. When the Great Elder suffered a great loss in Long Chen's hands, he was truly certain that Long Chen had really learned a spirit spell that he did not. Since ancient times, there were very few spirit spells in Hongmeng. Those who could learn them were mostly related to the Hongmeng Dao ancestors. With the Great Elder's status, it was not enough. Seeing the Great Elder's miserable appearance, Long Chen was too lazy to refute and immediately smiled. Long Chen knew very well that he did not need to hide his true strength at all times in the night market like he did in the small spirit world. Now, Long Chen was completely capable of protecting everything he had. Soon, when the astonishment on the Great Elder's face faded, his expression changed. However, don't think that you can deal with me just because you have a spirit spell. It can only prevent me from using my spirit power as much as possible. Purely in terms of the momentum of Hongmeng, with your strength of the first layer of Hongmeng Tianjing, it is not enough. At this time, the Great Elder became excited. It was likely that the defeat this time had completely aroused his competitive spirit, especially in this situation. As the leader of the Lin Meng Polar region, the Great Elder was even more agitated. He was able to lose face and lose his momentum. Immediately after, the aura of Hongmeng around the Great Elder rose again. His eyes flashed with a strong killing intent, and the surroundings were filled with a violent explosive force. At the same time, runes condensed around him. For a moment, light flashed. Brilliance splashed in all directions. When he saw this, Long Chen immediately recalled that when he was in the small spirit world, the two people from the Dao God Tower that he had met had used this move. At that time, he had to rely on Long Mu's strength to resist it. It had to be said that the Dao God Pagoda's rune technique was indeed very powerful. If Long Chen remembered correctly, the move that the Great Elder was using was called the Light Spirit Pagoda. Sure enough, just as this thought flashed through Long Chen's mind, the runes that filled the air around the Great Elder finally gathered together. In an instant, a pagoda-shaped ball of light condensed in front of everyone. When it came out, the aura of Hongmeng grew stronger and stronger, causing those who were closer to the Light Spirit Pagoda to be unable to breathe. Light Spirit Pagoda. A thunderous roar came from the Great Elder's mouth. The current him had already pushed the aura of Hongmeng to the limit, and the Light Spirit Pagoda that had been condensed in the air for many years also rose with a supreme might at this moment. Even Long Chen, who had already seen the Light Spirit Pagoda before, couldn't help but be shocked by the pressure. To be able to become the strongest sect in the Lin Meng Polar region, the Dao God Pagoda naturally had some trump cards. The First Elder did not intend to give Long Chen any time to react. From these few short exchanges, the First Elder had come to a conclusion in his heart. Although this sudden battle had caught the First Elder off guard, he was still able to deal with it. They had some chance of winning, but the variable that Great Elder Ran was most worried about was Long Chen. Therefore, Great Elder Ran felt that Long Chen couldn't be allowed to live. As this thought flashed through his mind, the aura of Hongmeng around the Great Elder suddenly exploded. His entire body directly flew into the towering Light Spirit Pagoda. Before the crowd could reveal their astonishment, the Light Spirit Pagoda flickered with supreme light. At this moment, the radiant Light Spirit Pagoda actually radiated with a power that had never been seen before. The entire pagoda seemed to have materialized at this moment as it charged downwards with a destructive force that could overturn the heavens and the earth. It couldn't be targeted by anyone else and was only aimed at Long Chen. Chapter 2093. Bang! Before the Light Spirit Treasure Pagoda could engulf the Hongmeng aura, the space around Long Chen began to distort from the pressure. The spatial fragments turned into ashes and bombarded Long Chen's body. What surprised Long Chen even more was that the Light Spirit Treasure Pagoda was still absorbing the Hongmeng aura around it. This caused the light spirit treasure pagoda, which was already about to cover the sky, to become even more powerful. It was even more dazzling. Master! Master! Two shouts rang out. Hua Lei, Huayan, Jianshi San, and Long Yuan both looked at Long Chen. The siblings, Hai Qingling and Hai Qingyan, were also worried. Long Chen hastily waved his hand towards these people. Given the current situation, he naturally could not allow outsiders to get involved. Otherwise, it was very likely that there would be more problems. After all, the light spirit pagoda had been constantly absorbing the surrounding primordial spirits. Who knew if this pagoda had any other functions? At this time, Long Chen couldn't help but curse the two mysterious people from the Tao God Pagoda that he saw in the small spiritual world. Back then, Long Chen saw the light spirit treasure pagoda. How could it have the same aura as the Great Elder? Slowly, Long Chen calmed his mind and looked at the light spirit treasure pagoda that was smashing towards him. Above it, Long Chen could feel an incomparably dense Hongmeng aura. It was as if there was a pagoda like this in the world. Half of it was surrounded by it. Long Chen endured the enormous pressure while condensing the Hongmeng aura around him. It was time to use the many benefits he had obtained in the Longmeng paradise. Long Chen had never tested the power of the 9 lightning dragons before. Naturally, he had to let Long Chen experience it himself. Just how powerful was it? Suddenly, the 9 golden dragons roared out. In an instant, the aura between heaven and earth howled. Immediately, violent pillars of Hongmeng aura were condensed and shot towards the light spirit treasure pagoda. Although Long Chen knew that this was just a matter of time. It was like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. However, right now, what Long Chen needed the most was time. When the 9 golden dragons completely revealed their bodies, the lightning pool behind Long Chen also revealed its loftiness. The lightning glow flickered in the mountains and rivers. What surprised everyone was that the lightning glow actually took the initiative to be activated. It wanted to bend over the 9 golden dragons that were circling in the air. Meng! In a few breaths' time, the 9 golden dragons had completed a tempering process. Sublimation. At this moment, the 9 lightning dragons had completely taken shape. Long Chen frowned. This was because Long Chen knew very well that although the 9 lightning dragons were much stronger than the fire dragons and ice dragons, it was too outrageous to rely on them to block the light spirit treasure pagoda. Thus, he pondered. Therefore, Long Chen did not have the confidence to do so by himself. After all, no matter what, Long Chen's opponent was the Great Elder of the Tao God Pagoda. He was a true Hongmeng Tianjing level 9 expert. On the other hand, Long Chen was only at the first level of Hongmeng Tianjing. Although he had the advantage in terms of spirit power, Long Chen's spirit power was clearly weaker in the face of the Great Elder's pure Hongmeng aura. Help me! Long Chen roared as the dragon halberd appeared in his hand. 9 lightning dragons instantly circled around it. Within the lightning pool, rays of brilliance surged through the heavens and earth. The lightning dragons roared as the sky changed color. At this moment, the Hongmeng aura around Long Chen was compressed. After Long Chen's figure swept out, the compressed Hongmeng aura was once again released with unparalleled power. At the same time, Long Chen's roar reverberated through the air. The 9 lightning dragons attached themselves to the dragon halberd. Long Chen held the dragon halberd in his hand as he charged straight towards the light spirit treasure pagoda. At the same time, Jianshi San, who was not far from Long Chen, suddenly felt a familiar aura. Sword Qi! Why was there such a powerful sword Qi? Before Jianshi San came, Yin Qi Luo had already detonated his meridians with the long sword called Hongmeng. Therefore, other than the sword Qi, Jianshi San could not feel anything else. When Jianshi San felt the lingering sword Qi, his heart was stirred. The illusory longsword in his hand suddenly buzzed. Hongmeng was made of iron and stone left behind when Hongmeng was separated from Hongmeng. It was hard to say whether there was an innate sword spirit in it. At this moment, Long Chen's roar finally reached Jianshi San's ears. In an instant, Jianshi San did not even discuss with anyone. he immediately captured the supreme sword chi that filled the air. With this sword chi, Jian Shisan successfully made the illusory longsword in his hand sharper and more powerful. The power of control. At this moment, Jian Shisan's understanding of the way of the sword had deepened. Without a sword in hand, all things are swords. In an instant, the illusory longsword in Jian Shisan's hand dissipated. At the same time, the supreme sword chi between heaven and earth suddenly trembled and buzzed. The light spirit pagoda seemed to have reached a state of saturation. Although he did not know where the great elder was in the light spirit pagoda, Longchen believed that as long as he could destroy the light spirit pagoda, he would have completed the most important step. At this moment, Longchen naturally felt the sword chi that suddenly moved between heaven and earth. For the sake of my disciple Zhu Ziyin, for the sake of this primordial polar land, the grudges between me and your Tao God pagoda, and the people of your Lin Meng polar land, will start from you, the great elder. Longchen muttered to himself. Bang! When the 9 lightning dragons on Longchen's halberd approached the light spirit pagoda, the runes around the light spirit pagoda suddenly released a layer of energy. Then, without waiting for the light to dissipate, the lightning released by the 9 lightning dragons was actually forcefully absorbed by the light spirit pagoda. This scene was beyond Longchen's imagination. The light spirit pagoda could even absorb lightning. Just when the light spirit pagoda wanted to do it in one go, the sword chi between heaven and earth trembled and exploded one after another. Then, what shocked everyone was that even the sword chi absorbed by the light spirit pagoda exploded. In an instant, Longchen directly recalled the 9 lightning dragons and used the pure Hong Meng energy within them to support the halberd. Together with the supreme sword chi controlled by Jian Shisan, it heavily collided with the light spirit pagoda. Bang! 3 rays of light flashed and the horizon collapsed. The sword chi was biting cold. Chapter 2094. Boom! An indescribable shockwave spread out from the collision point. Instantly, layers of powerful shockwaves spread out from the light spirit pagoda and spread out in all directions. Under this powerful shockwave, the entire world seemed to have become a domain controlled by the light spirit pagoda. Whether it was the people from the Hong Meng polar region or the Lin Meng polar region, they all nervously looked at the source of the shockwave. They looked at the light spirit pagoda that was still emitting a dense radiance. Hua Lei and Hua Yan stood next to Long Yuan with tense expressions. They were afraid that something had happened to Long Chen. The black and white figures from the Lin Meng polar region were indeed staring at the movements of the people from the Hong Meng polar region. It was as if they had already come to a conclusion regarding this battle. Long Yuan's brows were tightly knitted together. He didn't dare to stop staring at the light spirit pagoda for a moment, afraid that he would miss out on something important. It was also at this time that the light spirit treasure pagoda emitted a majestic grand mist aura after the fierce collision. Then, pure light energy soared into the sky. Before anyone could react, the light spirit treasure pagoda emitted a majestic grand mist aura. Before anyone could react, this radiance collapsed as it rose into the sky. It was as if it was forcibly cut off by a sharp longsword. Chi. Finally, the sword aura became increasingly clear. In the end, the sword aura condensed into substance and directly clashed with the light spirit pagoda. Below the light spirit pagoda, another aura rose. This was related to the power of lightning. At the same time, the 9 lightning dragons finally appeared in everyone's vision. After this brief appearance, it seemed as if there was a thick and heavy wall between them. The light spirit treasure pagoda seemed to have a tacit understanding of each other. They both chose to attack the light spirit treasure pagoda at the same time and unleashed a new round of attacks. Rumble. It was clear that the light spirit treasure pagoda had sensed the 2 auras, one above and one below. Then, the light spirit treasure pagoda once again released a wave of boundless energy. In the blink of an eye, a monstrous suppressive force appeared. It was emitted from the light spirit treasure pagoda. Soon after, it emitted an illusory image that used the pagoda as a medium to attack the 2 auras coming from above and below. Even though his attack was clearly seen through by the light spirit treasure pagoda, the 2 people at the bottom of the pagoda did not stop their attacks. perhaps to them, stopping at this moment was the same as not stopping at all. He would never find such a good opportunity again. The first to evolve was the unstoppable sword energy above the pagoda. In an instant, the sword energy seemed to connect the entire sky. In this space, the sword energy left behind by Yin Chi Luo's self-destruction actually gathered together. Under a buzzing sound, the vast sword energy seemed to form a gigantic sword energy. The shock waves faintly converged into a gigantic illusory longsword. After which, Jianshi Sam leapt up and used his mind to control the vast longsword as he heavily pounced towards the Light Spirit Treasure Pagoda. Boom! The two forces that could be said to be the sharpest force collided with each other. The huge sound of the primordial explosion immediately rang out at the moment when the two forces collided. Suddenly, a huge impact aura was produced, and it almost crazily tilted towards the Light Spirit Treasure on the pagoda's body. At the same time, the 9 lightning dragons below the Light Spirit Treasure Pagoda steadily poured the uncontrollable power of lightning into the Light Spirit Treasure Pagoda. Long Chen, is it? So that's all you've got? In the end, you still have to rely on others to bear the brunt of the attack for you. You're only fit to do these harmless sneak attacks from behind me. As the three forces were in a deadlock, the Light Spirit Treasure Pagoda's voice suddenly rang out. Then, a fierce roar rang out. The sound waves were wrapped in Hongmeng's aura and directly shook Long Chen's heart. After removing the effects of the tremor from his body, Long Chen focused on controlling the 9 lightning dragons to release their energy. On the other hand, he immediately shouted coldly at the Guangling Pagoda above him, "What is the current situation? I believe you are better than them." "I know." As soon as he finished speaking, a proud look flashed across Long Chen's eyes. Immediately after, the Hongmeng aura around Long Chen's body suddenly rose, and the 9 lightning dragons once again glowed with a brand new life force. The Hongmeng aura had risen to another level. Who? Long Chen gathered the Hongmeng aura behind him. The 9 lightning dragons immediately absorbed this aura into their bodies. Then, with a thought from Long Chen, this vast aura actually surrounded the light spirit that was nearly 100 feet tall in front of Long Chen. The Light Spirit Treasure Pagoda directly surrounded it. Then, before the spectators could react, the vast aura surrounding the Light Spirit Treasure Pagoda actually poured out in full force and crashed towards the Light Spirit Treasure Pagoda without any explanation. Boom! 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 At the same time, the sword aura above the Light Spirit Treasure Pagoda grew even stronger. The Light Spirit Treasure Pagoda, which was already at a disadvantage, found it even harder to withstand this pressure. The endless Hongmeng aura's violent force actually caused Long Chen, who was relatively close to the Light Spirit Treasure Pagoda, to tremble. In these few moments, Long Chen's body was uncontrollably trembling. Clearly, it was extremely difficult for Long Chen, who was only at the first layer of the Hongmeng Tianjing. Suddenly, the sword aura above the Light Spirit Treasure Pagoda unexpectedly condensed together and fell down in a way that no one had expected. The Light Spirit Treasure Pagoda was already in a highly defensive state, so it was extremely difficult for it to defend against this kind of change in aura. The sword aura was biting cold, bleak and austere. When the weak aura formed by the sword aura completely bombarded the Light Spirit Treasure Pagoda, this sword aura actually pierced through the indestructible Light Spirit Treasure Pagoda. Then, an illusory longsword entered the Light Spirit Treasure Pagoda. Inside the Light Spirit Treasure Pagoda. How is this possible? At this moment, an incredulous roar came from the Light Spirit Treasure Pagoda. However, it was all too late. The sword aura had already entered and began to wreak havoc. The first elder, who was inside the Light Spirit Treasure Pagoda, was preparing to deal with this sword aura. Who would have thought that the 9 lightning dragons controlled by Long Chen would attack the Light Spirit Treasure Pagoda when the first elder wasn't paying attention? The lightning dragons even penetrated the cracks created by the sword aura. In an instant, the first elder was attacked from both sides. Chapter 2095. Right now, no matter how incredulous the first elder was, the truth was right before his eyes. the light spirit pagoda that he thought was indestructible had been forcefully broken apart by Long Chen and Jian Shisan's cyclic sword qi. Just like the old saying, an ant's nest could destroy a 1,000-mile dike. When a hole appeared in the indestructible light spirit pagoda that allowed Long Chen and Jian Shisan to enter, the light spirit pagoda was no more. There was no need to hold on any longer. Inside the light spirit pagoda, the first elder watched as the sword qi wantonly destroyed the light spirit pagoda, as well as the 9 lightning dragons that were searching for him. For a moment, his heart turned to ashes. Never had he imagined that the sword qi that Sword 13 was able to execute would actually be so unstoppable. If Jian Shisan knew of the first elder's thoughts, he would probably be overjoyed. After all, the reason Jian Shisan was able to control the sword qi to such an extent was due to the sword qi in the sky. Jian Shisan had never seen anything like this before. He had never seen anything like this before. Boom! While the first elder was worrying, the 9 lightning dragons that had been searching the light spirit pagoda for a long time finally found traces of the first elder. Without any hesitation, the 9 lightning dragons attacked the first elder while he was down. Although such an attack wouldn't cause much damage to the first elder, Long Chen wanted to catch the first elder off guard. Only by doing this would Long Chen and Jian Shisan have a chance of defeating the first elder once the first elder panicked. The 9 lightning dragons turned into 9 bolts of lightning within the light spirit pagoda. At the same time, they carried an unstoppable force as they shot towards the first elder that Long Chen had already discovered. At this moment, the first elder couldn't care about anything else. In just a few moments, the first elder calmed himself down. So what if the light spirit pagoda is broken? With my strength at the 9th layer of Hongmeng Tianjing, do you think I'm afraid of you? The first elder hurriedly circulated his Hongmeng, wanting to clash head-on with Long Chen's 9 lightning dragons. Sword, come! Who would have thought that the moment the first elder raised her primordial chaos, a beam of sword energy would suddenly break through the barrier of the light spirit treasure tower behind the first elder. Then, with an unstoppable momentum, it slanted downwards and headed straight for the first elder. Bang! When Jian Shisan and Long Chen's impeccable cooperation hit the Great Elder perfectly, the Great Elder's heart should have turned into a pile of dead ashes. What made the First Elder even more furious was that even though Jian Shisan's sneak attack was successful, the Hongmeng aura that had just gathered around the First Elder suddenly dissipated. At the same time, Long Chen's 9 lightning dragons struck the First Elder's body. Only then did the Elder realize that the 9 lightning dragons that Long Chen had unleashed were actually a ball of illusory power. In other words, the real 9 lightning dragons were still outside the light spirit pagoda. Only then did the First Elder understand why the 2 forces that had entered the light spirit pagoda were the more powerful sword qi, while the weaker lightning dragons were the ones that took the initiative to provoke him. So all of this had been planned from the beginning? Perhaps the First Elder understood that this attack was planned by the First Elder and Jian Shisan, but to Long Chen and Jian Shisan, this was truly a result of their telepathy. However, even if someone like the First Elder were to hear about the tacit understanding between the Master and disciple, the First Elder wouldn't believe it. No matter what, the First Elder had been seriously injured after that. It had to be said that the sword qi captured by Jian Shisan was truly too powerful. The light around the light spirit pagoda gradually dissipated in all directions. Just like that, the majestic light spirit pagoda disappeared from everyone's sight. Then, the First Elder's figure finally reappeared in everyone's sight. However, the First Elder now looked much weaker than when he first entered the light spirit pagoda. It was probably because the sword qi controlled by Jian Shisan had completely penetrated his meridians. Although the First Elder could still barely maintain the circulation of Hongmeng energy around his body, it was hard to tell just how serious his injuries were. Long Chen couldn't see through him. This is impossible. The First Elder looked at the reunited Long Chen and Jian Shisan and hurriedly checked Jian Shisan's cultivation. After discovering that Jian Shisan was only at the 7th layer of Hongmeng Tianjing, the First Elder's expression changed. A look of shock appeared on the First Elder's face. How could someone at the 7th layer of Hongmeng Tianjing unleash such a vast and boundless sword qi? The Great Elder was at the 9th level of the Hongmeng firmament realm. In the past few hundred years, he had been crowned as the cultivation genius of the Lin-Meng polar region. It was also because of the Great Elder's existence that the Tao God Tower had been able to maintain its position among the top sects for the past few hundred years. However, this time, the First Elder, who had dominated his entire life, had actually suffered defeat at the hands of two youths. How could he accept this? It looks like Master has the upper hand. When Hualei and Huayan saw this scene from afar, they immediately shouted out in joy. The two sisters finally let go of the worry in their eyes. They were naturally aware of the power of the Light Spirit Treasure Pagoda, so they didn't have to worry about it. Thus, they naturally paid extra attention to the battle between Long Chen and the First Elder. To the side, Long Yuan let out a long sigh. He bitterly laughed and shook his head. The First Elder was not a fool. At this moment, he was already seriously injured and would not be able to endure any more intense battles for a while. Thus, while Long Chen and Jian Shan were relaxed, the First Elder hurriedly moved. In the blink of an eye, he left the place where he had just confronted Long Chen and used all his strength to rush to the side of the black and white figures. First Elder, are you all right? The black figure saw the First Elder's somewhat miserable appearance and immediately frowned as he asked. The First Elder let out a long sigh. He completely ignored the black figure who had unintentionally added insult to injury. Instead, he turned to look at the experts of Lin-Meng Tianjing behind him and shouted, "People of Lin-Meng Tianjing, listen to my order. Slaughter everyone from Hongmeng. The two of you, go and block the two people who had just fought with me. No matter what, you have to separate them and delay them. Don't let them clash with the main group." The First Elder seemed to feel uneasy and once again instructed the black and white figures. Chapter 2096. After saying this, the Great Elder hurriedly turned around to look at Long Chen and Jian Shan in the distance, as well as the reinforcements from the Falling Flower tribe and the Zishu tribe behind the two of them. After the lesson from before, it was clear that the Great Elder had a trace of fear in his heart. The conflict between Long Chen and Jian Shan. Listen to my orders. At this time, the black and white figures responded to the Great Elder at the same time. Then, under the leadership of the black and white figures, the Lin-Meng polar region experts, who had been restless for a long time, finally erupted their Hongmeng aura. In the blink of an eye, they gathered together and buzzed towards the Falling Flower tribe and the Zishu tribe. The Zishu tribe's yuan-eating army rushed over. When Hai Qingling saw the Lin-Meng polar region once again launch this kind of concentrated reunion, after a short period of pressure in her heart, she was shaken with confidence. The people of the Hongmeng polar region, fight to the death. Such a roar came from the Falling Flower tribe. The two tribe leaders, who had already seen through the situation, naturally did not have the slightest trace of cowardice. In the face of the Lin-Meng polar region's attack, they immediately gave the order and charged forward. The vast Hongmeng aura erupted one after another, and the rumbling brilliance emerged one after another. Under the surging waves, the piercing force of the wind broke through the sky, and several light figures exploded in the sky. The battle between the two polar regions was vast and magnificent. Long Chen and Jian Shan naturally did not hesitate too much. The two of them, who were closer to the Lin-Meng polar region, naturally bore the brunt of the Lin-Meng polar region's fiercest attack. The black and white figures directly separated Long Chen and Jian Shan, and then entangled with each other. The two tribes, Hai Qingling and the others also arrived, and without any explanation, they were entangled with the people of the Lin-Meng polar region. Battle. Hongmeng's aura exploded one after another, and under the sky, it suddenly formed an unparalleled barrier of air waves. Inside it, the figures of the experts fighting one after another were dazzling, and the battle had not yet reached its climax. Because the aura of Hongmeng in this space was so arrogant that it formed a vacuum. The strength of the Falling Flower tribe's chief and the Zishu tribe's chief were also very powerful 9th-layer Hongmeng Tianjing. Without the Great Elder, although the Lin-Meng polar region in front of them was powerful, in a sense, the Falling Flower tribe. In other words, they were just a motley crew. Although the black and white figures had indeed pulled the tribe's chief, the other experts of the Lin Meng Tian region didn't have Long Yuan, Hualei, Hai Qingling, and Qingling, Hai Qingling, Hai Qingling, and Hai Qingling and Hai Qing and the other experts of the Lin Meng polar region, There were so many ways to deal with him. Had they been replaced in the span of a day? It was no wonder that Long Chen was suspicious. It was because the name of Li Zhuoran had resounded throughout Hongmeng 1,000 years ago. The two chiefs and the elders of the tribe had all grown up listening to the stories of Li Zhuoran. At that time, in the face of the provocation of the legendary Li Zhuoran, these people had a lingering psychological pressure. Naturally, they didn't have the courage to deal with Li Zhuoran, let alone learn that Li Zhuoran was just a puppet at that time. That's all. However, it was fortunate that Long Chen had arrived during that battle. Thus, everything had become much easier. Under the leadership of the two chiefs, the outcome of this magnificent battle was quickly decided. Before the experts of the Lin Meng polar region could recover from their shock, the two chiefs and the experts of the Hongmeng polar region behind them had defeated the experts of the Lin Meng polar region. Although it was difficult to kill a Hongmeng Firmament Realm expert, the two clan leaders were confident that they could injure the Hongmeng Firmament Realm expert and cause him to lose his ability to fight temporarily. Long Chen was in a stalemate with the black figure. The black figure seemed to know that Long Chen had some tricks up his sleeve. Although he had the upper hand in the battle, he didn't show it. This was Long Chen's true trump card. This way, Long Chen could not hold it in anymore. No matter how he thought about it, he could not continue to be entangled like this. Long Chen was hot-headed. He immediately paid the price of being punched by the black figure and forcibly broke away from the battle with the black figure. On the other hand, Jianshi San had the absolute advantage over the Jianshi San. Now, Jianshi San should be controlling all the remaining sword chi in the sky. The sword chi that even the Great Elder couldn't resist was used by Jianshi San on the white figure. Naturally, the white figure couldn't withstand it. After a while, the white figure was already covered with scars. After Long Chen left, the black figure hurriedly observed his surroundings. Immediately, he discovered that something was amiss. Lin Meng polar region's side was losing uncontrollably. The black figure's expression finally changed. When he found that the chief of the Luohua tribe was approaching him, the black figure quickly rushed out and went straight to the black cloud behind him. The Great Elder was here. Great Elder, something is wrong. The Luohua tribe and the Zishu tribe should have come out in full force. We can't hold them off. The black figure saw the Great Elder and quickly shouted. Damn it! Li Zhuoran is really a waste. He can't even handle the Luohua tribe. In the end, I have to drag his tail. The Great Elder's face was full of anger. His eyes were like torches as he said angrily. What should we do now? Now that the Luohua tribe and the remnants of the Blue Ocean tribe have joined forces, it won't be long before we are slaughtered. The black figure glanced at the white figure in the distance who was entangled with the Jianshi San and frowned. Head. The Great Elder let out a long breath. The anger on his face suddenly surged to his heart. He suppressed his cold expression and said angrily, Retreat. As his voice fell, the experts of the Lin Meng polar region who were fighting in the Hongmeng polar region immediately retreated. Even if they had to pay the price of being seriously injured, they had to completely withdraw from the battle. The white figure was naturally the first to rush out. After entangling with the sword chi around Jianshi San for a long time, the white figure had used up too much of his strength. If you have the ability, come to the Tianfeng tribe. Our two polar regions are fighting there. I'm afraid you don't have the guts. The Great Elder shouted. Then, he turned around and retreated. Chapter 2097. The First Elder's sorry state was a stark contrast to his impassioned words. For a moment, not only the people from the Hongmeng polar region, but even the Hongmeng Tianjing experts from the Lin Meng polar region more or less scoffed at the Great Elder's actions. Seeing this, the corners of Long Chen's mouth curled up slightly. He turned to look at Jian Shirshan beside him. Jian Shirshan immediately understood. The two of them immediately activated the Hongmeng aura around their bodies and rushed out. The dignified Great Elder of the Tao God Tower is running away from the battle. If this matter were to spread, I'm afraid you won't be able to keep your face, right? Long Chen rushed out and shouted directly behind the Great Elder. How could the First Elder care about Long Chen's infuriating words? He continued to do as he wished and rushed towards the last remaining black cloud in the sky. Long Chen naturally wouldn't give the Great Elder this opportunity. Jian Shirshan, who was beside Long Chen, was even more decisive. Just as Long Chen was talking to the Great Elder, Jian Shirshan had already connected all the participating sword chi between heaven and earth. With the mind of one with the sword, he captured all the sword chi in the sky and completely turned them into Jian Shirshan. The substantial power he used. Although the limitations of this power were very great, at least in this part of the sky, Jian Shirshan would not encounter any problems. Just as the Great Elder was about to approach the black cloud and was about to reach it, he leaped into the black cloud. The Great Elder, who was able to borrow the power of the black cloud to escape like a clay ox entering the sea, suddenly sensed that the sky was suddenly swept up. The biting cold sword chi that was filled with killing intent was coming. How could this be? The Great Elder's expression changed again. A look of shock suddenly shot out from his eyes. Then, he clearly saw that in front of him, in the space of 10 feet that was originally not visible to his eyes, was completely filled with sword chi. Piercingly cold sword energy filled the air. What made it even harder for the Great Elder to suppress the fear in his heart was that there were actually a few flower petals at the very front of this biting cold sword chi. They were slowly falling in an inexplicable arc, falling flowers, falling flowers. The Great Elder quickly turned around and saw the two Hongmeng sisters who were releasing a slightly unstable aura. Hua Lei and Hua Yan also caught up. Hua Lei and Hua Yan stood together. Perhaps it was because of the powerful aura of Hongmeng, but from afar, the two of them looked like ice beauties. Hua Lei and Hua Yan quietly looked at the surprised Great Elder, and then glanced at Long Chen, who was not far from the Great Elder. After receiving Long Chen's nod, the two sisters stepped into the air, and petals formed under their feet. Becoming a foothold, this scene was like a fairy descending to the mortal world. Falling flowers have intentions. The two sisters, Hua Lei and Hua Yan, shouted in unison. In an instant, the petals that surrounded the Great Elder suddenly condensed. One piece divided into two pieces divided into 4 pieces. In just a few breaths, a thick wall of petals had already condensed around the Great Elder. First, it could be considered as completely sealing off all the paths of the Great Elder. This scene naturally caught the Great Elder off guard. However, with the Great Elder's many years of combat experience, the more in this kind of situation, the more he could not wait for death. Therefore, the Great Elder immediately released his aura after a while. Waves of attacking aura continuously bombarded the surrounding falling flowers barrier. At this time, Jian Shirshan and Hua Lei and Hua Yan looked at each other. The indestructible falling flowers barrier suddenly broke open a gap. Before the Great Elder could react, several pure sword chi rushed in from the gap and directly pierced through the Great Elder's body. The Great Elder's body was pierced through. Immediately, bloody holes appeared on the Great Elder's body. Until now, the Great Elder still did not understand how Jian Shirshan, whose strength was only at the 5th stage of Hongmeng Tianjing, could release such a biting cold sword chi. The sword chi rushed in one after another and did not even give the Great Elder a chance to react. It directly pierced through his body. It was too unbelievable. At this time, Long Chen did not stay idle. His figure flashed and directly jumped on top of the falling flowers barrier. Long Chen's expression was dignified. The Hongmeng aura around him was circulating heavily, as if it was brewing a huge threat. 9 thunder dragons roared out, and a Hongmeng flame suddenly rushed out from behind Long Chen. Thunder from the 9th heaven. Long Chen fiercely swung his arm. The moment the dragon halberd left his hand, the 9 thunder dragons immediately supported it, and then it disappeared into the Hongmeng flame. If you start from the beginning with the matter of Zhu Ziyin, I can still spare your life. Long Chen shouted. The Great Elder, who was besieged on all sides, looked ferocious and said angrily, "Don't even think about it." Stubborn. Long Chen's expression was dignified. He immediately swung his arm again, and the dragon halberd, which had been supported by the 9 thunder dragons and tempered by the Hongmeng flame, returned to Long Chen's hand. Then, a violent force that was close to the power of the world came from Long Chen's hand. When the dragon halberd was released, the falling flowers barrier seemed to be on the verge of collapse. Under the pressure of this powerful force, although it did not touch the power of the divine soul, which the Hongmeng Tianjing experts valued the most, this pressure was enough to make the Great Elder unable to bear it. In this kind of situation, Long Chen would not let go of any mistakes. Long Chen frowned. The power of the divine soul poured out, and the dragon halberd in his hand rushed toward the Great Elder. This time, it could be said that Long Chen used all his strength in order to completely kill the Great Elder. Whoosh! At this time, the falling flowers barrier collapsed. In the distance, the 2 sisters, Hualei and Huayan, withdrew the Hongmeng around them, and the frost aura filled the sky. Jian Shan finally released all the Hongmeng remaining in the sky. This force, together with Long Chen's move, could make the Great Elder lose a layer of skin, even if he did not die this time. In the falling flower barrier, the First Elder's figure once again appeared in front of everyone's eyes as the falling flowers around him dispersed. At this time, the Great Elder's body was charred black, and the blood all over his body had solidified into blood plasma. His clothes were ragged, and his expression was a little dull. "You forced me to do this, you forced me to do this." Suddenly, the Great Elder, who was on the verge of collapse, roared loudly. His voice directly caused everyone to tremble. Bang! Just as the First Elder's voice sounded, an extremely devouring aura wildly gathered around the First Elder's body. After which, under the First Elder's control, a slight distortion appeared in the space where he was. Chapter 2098. The loud Hongmeng explosion fell. When Long Chen came back to his senses, he saw that the First Elders seemed to have changed into a different person. His expression became more ferocious, and at the same time, the Hongmeng aura that was released from his body became more and more powerful. The more powerful it became. Without much hesitation, the First Elder, who seemed to have been reborn, turned around and looked at Long Chen. Without any hesitation, he punched out. The moment he punched out, the violent Hongmeng aura formed an absolute absorption posture. The magnificent Hongmeng aura that was absorbed in the air directly condensed into a slightly barren aura attack. With the momentum of an earthquake, it heavily bombarded Long Chen. Long Chen's eyes reflected the Hongmeng aura, and he could not help but mutter to himself, "Is this the reason why Lin Meng Polar Region sent people to Long Meng Polar Region to obtain the demonic beast inner core?" Just a moment ago, although the First Elder's actions were already very fast, Long Chen still caught a trace of something wrong. That was, after Long Chen finished his move against the First Elder, he actually took out something that looked like an elixir from his palm at an extremely fast speed and swallowed it without any hesitation. Then, it was the appearance that Long Chen saw. The First Elder was rejuvenated, and at that moment, his whole person seemed to be filled with absolute strength. If Long Chen's guess was correct, the elixir that the First Elder swallowed must have been made with the demonic beast inner core as the basic raw material, and then a large amount of elixirs were added to make it. The effect of this elixir was also very clear, and that was it. In a short period of time, it would greatly increase a person's strength. In this way, it was reasonable for Lin Meng Polar Region to be able to gather so many Hongmeng Tianjing experts in such a short period of time, and thus defeat 8 of the top 10 tribes in one go. Sharp and cold light filled the sky. The fearless primordial chi was augmented by a powerful destructive force that could tear the sky and earth apart. The sound of the primordial chi exploding reverberated in the air, almost knocking Long Chen back. "Master!" A voice called out in unison. It seemed that there was more than one person who was worried about Long Chen. Long Chen's eyes reflected the shadow of the Hongmeng aura. At this time, Long Chen's Hongmeng aura was also gradually rising. In an instant, Long Chen shook out the Hongmeng aura around him, and the dragon halberd in his hand was released. 9 thunder dragons roared, and the Hongmeng aura behind Long Chen suddenly shook. The sound of thunder crisscrossed and shook the sky. Now, whether it was the Jianshi San or Hualei Yan, there was no way to help Long Chen in such a short period of time. After all, the First Elder's change was too sudden. Long Chen naturally would not blindly seek help from others. Even in the author's version of a dangerous situation where the world would collapse, Long Chen had experienced it alone. Therefore, the current situation, in Long Chen's view, could not be considered a big deal. When the situation was difficult. After a period of preparation, Long Chen surged out all the Hongmeng aura around him. The 9 thunder dragons had already tempered Long Chen's dragon halberd to the point of perfection. It was as if in an instant, it could use the 9 heavens thunder technique. The true power of the technique was completely released through the dragon halberd. Long Chen took a step forward, and the dragon halberd in his hand was held horizontally in front of him. His entire body was radiating a majestic aura that was difficult to resist. Without the slightest hesitation, Long Chen circulated the aura around his body to the extreme. Then, he rushed towards the First Elder who had fallen into madness. "You're courting death." When the First Elder saw Long Chen's reaction in such a short period of time, he unexpectedly laughed. If this sneer was heard by Jianshi San, it was likely that Jianshi San's heart would tremble. However, before anyone could react, when Long Chen wanted to use the dragon halberd to break through the Hongmeng aura released by the First Elder, when they looked again, they discovered that within the Hongmeng aura, there was actually Athos was an even more powerful spiritual energy. Presumably, this was the reason why the First Elder laughed coldly. It turned out that the Hongmeng aura released by the First Elder already contained a part of the spirit energy. However, this part of the spirit energy was not completely activated. When Long Chen made that head-on clash with the First Elder, after making a hard decision, the First Elder directly activated the spirit energy hidden within the Hongmeng aura in order to catch Long Chen off guard. After the previous battle between the First Elder and Long Chen, the First Elder naturally knew that Long Chen possessed the secret of the spirit technique. Therefore, he naturally would not clash head-on with Long Chen using the spirit energy. If he did not use the spirit energy, he would not be able to possess it. The First Elder had absolute confidence that he could defeat Long Chen. Therefore, the First Elder would not use such a crafty trick. According to the First Elder's thinking, even if Long Chen had discovered his wishful thinking, it would be impossible for him to activate the spirit energy in his body in such a short period of time. Unless Long Chen not only possessed the spirit technique, but more importantly, Long Chen possessed the spirit cultivation method. Naturally, the First Elder did not know about this. Therefore, if the First Elder was really defeated by Long Chen this time, it could be said that the First Elder's failure this time was due to his ignorance of Long Chen. When Long Chen, who was charging forward, sensed the abnormality in the Hongmeng aura, the corners of Long Chen's mouth could not help but curl up. Long Chen directly pushed Long Chen forward. Then, using this extremely difficult to grasp time, he quickly activated the spirit energy around his body. The spirit energy that he had strengthened in the past finally came in handy at this moment. Because Long Chen's spirit power had been cultivated, it could be said that Long Chen, whose spirit power was already strong, was more powerful than the spirit power of people at the same cultivation level. Since his spirit power was strong, when he circulated it, his spirit power would be much stronger. Therefore, it was naturally more convenient. Bang! The first to explode was the dragon halberd that Long Chen pushed out, and the Hongmeng aura that enveloped the First Elder's spirit energy. Although this collision stirred up many Hongmeng ripples, this was not what Long Chen and the First Elder were most concerned about. Part of it. The First Elder was probably anticipating what would happen next with great anticipation. Long Chen was in a state of utter misery under the attack of the First Elder's divine spirit power. However, reality often gave the most profound blow to people who often fell into fantasies. Chapter 2099. Buzz. A muffled explosion rang out. In an instant, with Long Chen's dragon halberd as the center, ripples of majestic vibrations continuously spread out. At the point where the two spirit powers collided, they actually condensed into broken jade. The dragon halberd trembled violently, as if it was about to shatter. The collision this time was beyond the First Elder's expectations. Similarly, it was also beyond Long Chen's expectations. What the First Elder did not expect was that Long Chen's spirit powers were so powerful. What Long Chen did not expect was that the First Elder's spirit powers were so strong. Earlier, when the First Elder was fighting Long Chen with the Light Spirit Pagoda, Long Chen had tested the First Elder's spirit powers once. At that time, Long Chen easily repelled the First Elder and then cooperated with Jianshi San to seriously injure him. But this time, although Long Chen hastily made preparations, it was undeniable that the First Elder's spirit powers were much, much stronger than before. It could even be said that it had completely surpassed Long Chen's spirit powers. Force. Was that elixir really that miraculous? The First Elder immediately withdrew the force from his body after being suppressed in one move. The number of surprises that Long Chen had given him today was really far too many. Therefore, if the First Elder wanted to live on peacefully, he would have to go through quite a big battle. At this time, the First Elder turned to look to the other side. Only then did he realize that at this moment, the Hongmeng Polar Region experts who had been fighting with the Hongmeng Tianjing Polar Region at the beginning were already being led by the two chiefs of the Falling Flowers tribe and the Zishu tribe. Their leaders had been slaughtered to pieces. Right now, the only ones who were still holding on were Black and White. From the looks of it, Black and White would also lose their lives to the enemy. The First Elder could not help but feel a pang of pain. If he had known this would happen, he would have prepared more medicinal pills. After all, the Hongmeng Tianjing experts who had died in the battle today were genuine Hongmeng Tianjing experts. The falling flowers are willing, but the heartless flowing water is heartless. After Long Chen successfully blocked the First Elder's killing blow, Hualei, who had been worried for a long time, finally let out a cry. Then, the sky was filled with falling petals. Obviously, Hualei and Huayan were really worried about Long Chen's safety. Falling flower petals filled the sky, condensing into a dozen beautiful blooming flowers at the source. Before the crowd could truly appreciate the beauty of these flowers, the dozen or so flowers whizzed out together, directly rushing towards the First Elder with murderous intent. Go! Wherever the flower passed, a ripple-like aura would gradually spread out. Upon closer inspection, one would realize that this was actually a stream of pure Hongmeng energy. This move should be the consummate skill of the Falling Flowers tribe. The almost suffocating sealing aura shook around the First Elder. In an instant, the Hongmeng aura around the First Elder was completely absorbed by these dozen or so flowers. What was even more terrifying was that after absorbing so much Hongmeng aura, these flowers did not seem to have any signs of life. They actually showed no signs of withering. Long Chen hurriedly pulled away, because Long Chen felt a majestic aura that he had never felt before from these flowers. Especially when that faintly discernible stream of water also passed by Long Chen's side, Long Chen was unable to circulate it for a moment. The power of Hongmeng in his body. In the distance, the patriarch of the Falling Flowers tribe, who had dealt with the Black and White figures, turned to look at the flower buds and Huayan. He could not help but exclaim, to be able to make the flower buds and Huayan use a forbidden technique, is the First Elder of the Tao God Tower really that difficult to deal with? Beside him, the patriarch of the Zishu tribe shook his head and said, just as the ancestors of our tribe expected, the reason why the Lin Meng Polar region was able to gather so many Red Tiger Firmament Realm experts in such a short period of time was because a while ago, the Hongmeng Polar region was unable to raise its head. In the beginning, there must be a reason. The patriarch of the Falling Flowers tribe nodded and said, I hope this reason is not too surprising. On the other side, the dozen or so flowers that had temporarily trapped the First Elder with this method that was enough to be called a forbidden technique by the patriarch of the Falling Flowers tribe, slowly floated beside the First Elder. For a moment, it seemed that the first elder himself was somewhat immersed in it. Kill! However, just as the ripple of water condensed by the flower buds and Huayan was about to reach the flowers, the first elder suddenly sneered. Then, the first elder's figure suddenly swayed, and when they looked again, the first elder's figure actually disappeared in front of everyone's eyes. The merciless flowing water. At the same time, the faintly discernible ripple of water finally arrived slowly. When the ripple of water successfully approached the flowers, the space surrounded by the dozen or so flowers collapsed directly, condensing into a vacuum area that was visible to the naked eye. There was no shocking explosion of Hongmeng, nor was there a great impact of Hongmeng. It was just a simple collapse, a simple destruction. With the strength of Hongmeng, which was almost comparable to the Way of Heaven, the contact between the flowing water and the falling flowers produced a power that could destroy heaven and earth. This move was indeed worthy of being called a forbidden technique by the patriarch of the Falling Flowers tribe. The sisters, Huayan and Hualei, who were able to control this forbidden technique, were even more thought-provoking. When Longchen saw this scene, Longchen even doubted whether what he saw was real or not. Was this kind of ability really something that could be achieved by living creatures in Hongmeng? In other words, Hualei and Huayan's operation was equivalent to destroying the Way of Heaven in Hongmeng. Even the Hongmeng Tao ancestors only divided the original Hongmeng and occupied one side. Fundamentally, their momentum did not hurt the Way of Heaven in Hongmeng. However, Hualei and Huayan directly caused one side of the space to collapse and fall into destruction. How on earth did this move of state come about? And before the ripple of water arrived, where did the first elder suddenly disappear to? When everyone recovered from the shock of seeing Hualei's move, they wanted to check whether the first elder was alive or not. However, the space where the first elder was originally located had collapsed and been destroyed. How could they search for him? Long Chen's expression was solemn. He could not help but release the power of his divine soul. He wanted to rely on the power of his divine soul to find the first elder's trace. After the short fight, Long Chen had already figured out the first elder's way of doing things. Since he was forced into a corner, the first elder would definitely fight to the death. Be careful. When Long Chen was investigating, Long Yuan, who had just rushed over, suddenly shouted. Before his voice fell, Long Chen's flank rolled up a fierce Hongmeng aura. Chapter 2100. Suddenly, the attacking aura swept out, and with an unstoppable momentum, it heavily pounced towards Long Chen. Taking advantage of this short period of time, Long Chen hurriedly changed his position. He first retreated a few feet away, and temporarily avoided the first wave of the attack. Long Chen dodged the first wave of aura. When Long Chen was ready to face this attack, he realized that the Hongmeng aura that had swept across the sky a moment ago had disappeared in an instant. After experiencing such a shocking scene, Long Chen could not help but focus his gaze. He completely released the Hongmeng aura around him to guard against the Great Elder's sudden attack. The Great Elder, who had swallowed the zero pill, was actually so elusive. At this time, the two sisters, Hualei and Huayan, rushed over and stopped beside Long Chen. "Master, have you found him?" Hualei's expression was solemn. The falling flower imprint around the two of them had not dissipated. It seemed that they had paid a price for using the forbidden technique earlier. Long Chen was also very nervous. He sighed and said, "It's too strange. You two should be careful. Who knows when he will jump out again?" Hualei and Huayan nodded. Then, they looked around with a solemn expression, trying to find some clues. What kind of technique was this? It was actually able to pull oneself out of a space, and then mysteriously launch an attack. If he could maintain this state, then wouldn't the Great Elder be invincible in the world? Long Chen slowly condensed the power of his spirit. This was because Long Chen thought that Hongmeng's power alone would not be able to achieve such a superb technique. Therefore, the Great Elder must have used some kind of inexplicable spirit technique. That was why the current situation was created. Long Chen steadied his mind and shouted to Jian Shersan and Long Yuan, who were about to move in the distance, 13, Long Yuan, Don't come over for the time being. Just guard the surroundings. I'm sure that the Great Elder of the Tao God Tower hasn't left yet." When Jianshi San and Long Yuan heard this, they immediately realized the seriousness of the matter. They hurriedly followed Long Chen's instructions and leaped up to guard the place where the battle was taking place. Although the Great Elder's figure could not be seen at the moment, if the Great Elder wanted to escape from this place, he would definitely have to leave from the area guarded by Jianshi San and Long Yuan. Long Chen's spirit power condensed more and more steadily. At the same time, Long Chen was also investigating every corner of this space. He wanted to use his spirit power to thoroughly find the whereabouts of the Great Elder, who had disappeared. Just as Long Chen's spirit power was about to take control of this space, suddenly, a violent aura of Hong Meng surged out, causing this part of the world to shake. In the distance, Patriarch Luo Hua and Patriarch Zishu led a group of Hong Meng Firmament Realm experts to watch the battle between Long Chen and the Great Elder. From their expressions, it could be seen that both of them were very interested in the battle. From the looks of it, the Patriarch did not have much confidence in this battle. Since it can create nearly 100 almost genuine Hong Meng Tianjing experts out of thin air, the power of this kind of elixir should be enough to make the Great Elder, who is already close to the Hong Meng Dao Ancestor realm, reach a level comparable to the Dao Ancestor of Hong Meng. He should be able to reach the level of the Hong Meng Dao Ancestor, Patriarch Zishu said solemnly. Patriarch Luo Hua, who was beside him, nodded and said, "If that's the case, the price of this kind of elixir should be very high. Otherwise, the Hong Meng Tianjing experts in the Linmeng Polar region would not have weakened and left like this. Moreover, if the side effects were not big, I think the Great Elder would not have been forced to choose this path only when he was at the end of his rope, right? If we can kill the Great Elder today, perhaps we can go and wipe out all the people from the Linmeng Polar region who are still gathered in the Tianfeng tribe." Patriarch Zishu's ambition was suddenly ignited. Patriarch Luo Hua smiled a little awkwardly and said, "With just a few of us? You have to know that the opponents we are about to face are Li Zhuoran, the current Dao God Pagoda Master, and even the elders of the Tianfeng tribe. I'm afraid this battle will not be as easy as you say." Patriarch Zishu shook his head and said, "We have Long Chen. That's enough." "This young man is really a mystery," Patriarch Luo Hua said sadly. The spiritual power around Long Chen gathered together, almost not letting go of any detail. "Is it coming?" There seemed to be a cold light in Long Chen's eyes. When Long Chen came back to his senses, he found that behind Long Chen, less than 10 feet away, the strange Hong Meng aura burst out again, and this time, it obviously did not intend to fight again. Fighting a battle of wits and courage with Long Chen, it looked like he was going to kill him in one strike. Thinking of this, Long Chen felt a sense of danger all over his body. Before he could even react, Long Chen directly released his most violent and primitive power. In an instant, waves of origin energy poured out from Long Chen's body. In just an instant, a majestic heavenly dragon true body suddenly appeared in this part of the sky. In an instant, the unique crushing power of the heavenly dragon bloodline immediately suppressed this part of the sky. The majestic aura flowing in the dragon clan's bloodline was also vividly displayed by Long Chen at this moment. Woo! A deep dragon roar resounded through the sky, and the unique aura of the dragon clan poured down. As this power condensed, Long Chen's entire body entered the heavenly dragon true body that belonged to Long Chen. The heavenly dragon true body rotated, and a fierce aura was immediately released from its body, colliding with the mysterious aura. Bang! Before everyone could recover from the shock, the powerful collision burst out with an irresistible force. A series of Hong Meng explosions resounded through the sky. When they looked again, the shock on everyone's faces could no longer be concealed. They couldn't stand it anymore. Before this, other than Jianshi San and Long Yuan, no one present knew that Long Chen had such a move. They also didn't know that Long Chen was actually a secret of the Dragon Clan. This time, the First Elder was once again forced back by Long Chen. However, after this collision, the First Elder didn't disappear, but appeared in the sky. Clearly, the First Elder was extremely curious about Long Chen's ability to condense the Dragon True Body. Chapter 2101. You're not going to hide anymore? Why? Have you given up? Longchen coldly shouted at the First Elder with his sky dragon body when he saw that the First Elder had already revealed himself. Unexpectedly, the Great Elder smiled and said, I didn't expect you to be from the Dragon Clan. Longchen immediately remembered the relationship between the Hongmeng Polar region and the Longmeng Polar region. He couldn't help but turn around to look at the people from the Hongmeng Polar region behind him. When he saw that something was wrong from the faces of Patriarch Zishu and Patriarch Luohua, Longchen realized that something was wrong. Only then did Chen realize that his sudden reveal of his true form might become a huge problem. However, it was already too late for him to react. Since he had already made a mistake, he could only make one more mistake after another. Longchen came back to his senses and said, So what? Even if you know my true identity, so what? I am indeed from the Dragon Clan. Moreover, I am from the Heavenly Dragon bloodline, the fiercest of the Dragon Clan. The Great Elder shook his head and said, Today, you are still working for the Hongmeng Polar region. Do you know what the Hongmeng Polar region has done to your Longmeng Polar region in the past 100,000 years? Also, most of the people from the Hongmeng Polar region have connections with the Dragon Clan. Even if you can take my life today, have you thought about how you will face the people from the Hongmeng Polar region in the future? Longchen couldn't help but hesitate when he heard the Great Elder's words. However, since things had already come to this point, Longchen could no longer turn back. It's useless to say more. Since you're not going to hide anymore, let's have a good fight. The Hongmeng aura around Longchen suddenly burst forth. The heavenly dragon true body rushed out and pounced on the Great Elder. Just as Longchen made his move, Hualei and Huaiyan also recovered from the shock of Longchen turning into a sky dragon. After that, the two sisters did not care about anything else and immediately withdrew the falling flower imprint around their bodies. At the same time, that faint flow of energy flowed between them. The ripples of the Mercury star also slowly followed. It had to be said that Hualei and Huaiyan's minds were connected to Longchen's. Longchen used the heavenly dragon physique to suppress the Great Elder in a space, causing him to be unable to move. Hualei and Huaiyan, on the other hand, used these falling flower imprints to silently diffuse around the Great Elder. A swift and fearless aura enveloped the Great Elder. In order to prevent the Great Elder from escaping like the last time, Jian Shan and Long Yuan did not stay idle. They quickly condensed the aura around their bodies and truly trapped the Great Elder, who was in a desperate situation. On the other side, when Patriarch Zishu and Patriarch Luohua saw Longchen's heavenly dragon true body, before they could react, the Hongmeng Tianjing experts behind them were in an uproar. Patriarch Luohua frowned and said in a trembling voice, What's going on? Longchen is actually from the Heavenly Dragon bloodline, a genuine dragon clan? Patriarch Zishu also looked surprised and said slowly, So this is Longchen's biggest secret. So that's how it should be. How should we deal with it? Patriarch Luohua asked. Patriarch Zishu shook his head and said in relief, Now the Hongmeng Polar region is facing a great disaster, and the Hongmeng Tao ancestor, who should be the one who is most puzzled by the Hongmeng Polar region, has not appeared. Patriarch Luohua, do you really think that the words of the Hongmeng Tao ancestor are true? Really? Our Hongmeng Polar region and the Longmeng Polar region have been fighting for nearly 100,000 years. It's time to end it. Hearing this, Patriarch Luohua had to put down the thoughts that flashed through her mind before, and said, Should we take action? It seems that with the strength of these young people, it's still a little difficult to deal with the Great Elder. Patriarch Zishu shook his head and said, Not for the time being. Let's wait and see. I always feel that Longchen can still bring me a bigger surprise. Whoosh! The heavenly dragon real body clawed at the Great Elder's body, and immediately, a strong wave of chi energy was set off at the moment of collision. The roaring sound of Hongmeng's explosion spread out, and almost at the same time, those falling flower seals behind the Great Elder exploded. It was at this moment that it exploded, and the powerful ripples that it set off exploded on the First Elder's body. Even if you swallow the elixir, so what? You're still just SOSO in the end. Finally, after experiencing this exchange of blows, Longchen also figured out the true strength of the Great Elder. The source of everything still came from the very beginning. The Great Elder fought against Longchen and Jian Shisan with his own body, and in the end, he was injured by Jian Shisan's sword qi. This mysterious sword qi obviously hurt the Great Elder's foundation, so even if the Great Elder swallowed the elixir, in a short period of time, however, there was still no way for him to heal this injury. This naturally became the Great Elder's fatal weakness when fighting against Longchen and the others. It could be said that the Great Elder's previous fancy moves were mostly to cover up his weakness. However, Longchen really had too many tricks up his sleeve. After shattering the Great Elder's attacks again and again, the Great Elder's weakness was finally revealed. Finally, it was completely revealed. Right now, the Great Elder was besieged by 5 people. Just based on the falling flower seals of Hualei and Huayan, even Longchen did not have the confidence to completely block this attack. Not to mention, the Great Elder already had an injury that was difficult to heal. At this time, the Great Elder's face was full of pain. How could he go back to heal Longchen? During this period of time, the attacks that the Great Elder suffered became heavier and heavier. After a period of accumulation, a burst of violent power suddenly surged around Longchen's heavenly dragon body. At this moment, Longchen no longer held back. He immediately used the heavenly dragon bloodline as the fulcrum of the powerful aura, and fearlessly crushed the qi energy. He smashed down heavily on the Great Elder. At the same time, Long Yuan and Jian Shisan also brought out their special skills. Although Jian Shisan's son, Aoyi, had no way to operate the tyrannical sword qi that was scattered around the sky before, a single Jian Shisan's powerful qi energy was enough to stop the Great Elder. It blocked the Great Elder for a moment. After all, how could it be compared to the falling flower intent and the merciless flowing water by purely relying on the power of the attack? The violent qi energy impact suddenly spread out and exploded at this moment with the Great Elder as the fulcrum. In an instant, Longchen's heavenly dragon claws and the scattered falling flower seals gathered together. Between the biting cold sword qi, the powerful impact of the black dragon went straight toward the Great Elder. The Great Elder, who was surrounded in the middle, no longer had the slightest strength to resist. Destruction of the divine soul. Longchen used the heavenly dragon real body to condense the complex qi energy, and then released the power of the divine soul. He mixed it together and poured it on the Great Elder's body. Chapter 2102. As the space trembled, a majestic aura of Hong Meng poured in from all directions, directly wrapping around the Great Elder's energy. Then, the moment Longchen's shout fell, a dazzling light burst forth. The Great Elder's ferocious face froze at this moment. As the light dissipated, the Great Elder's physical body was finally completely torn apart and collapsed at this moment. Longchen, the humiliation I suffered today will be returned 100-fold in the future. The fall of the Hong Meng polar region is a matter of destiny. You alone will not be able to stop it. The space around the Great Elder's body crazily collapsed at this moment, so much so that the Great Elder's words almost did not reach Longchen's ears. When the distortion of space returned to normal, Longchen confirmed that this attack had completely destroyed the Great Elder. Finally, he let out a long sigh of relief. Jian Shisan and Long Yuan withdrew their Hong Meng aura and slowly floated to Longchen's side, their expressions solemn. Hualei and Huayan also came over. First, they looked at Longchen, who was in the true heavenly dragon body, and their expressions were inevitably a little surprised. Then, after Longchen changed into his human form, the two sisters finally recovered in the true sense of the word. Longchen looked at the place where the Great Elder's body had been shattered. From the falling petals, Longchen still felt an unusual fluctuation. The effect of that spirit core really cannot be underestimated, Jian Shisan said with a solemn face. Longchen nodded and said, "This is why the Lin Meng polar region still sent people to the Long Meng polar region to hunt for demonic beast cores even though the two polar regions are engaged in such a fierce battle." It seems that the Lin-Meng polar region relies on this kind of spirit core to maintain. Otherwise, among the experts of the Lin-Meng polar region, it would be impossible for the Great Elder to be the only one who has one. Sword 13 seemed to be lost in thought as he said, if it's like that, then I presume this period of time will be when Lin-Meng Extreme Land is strong on the outside but weak on the inside. If he wants to protect the primordial Extreme Land, then perhaps he should give it a try. Long Chen was a little shocked and said, "You mean to fight to the death with the Lin-Meng polar region?" According to the Great Elder of the Tao God Tower, most of the elites of the Lin-Meng polar region should be in the Tianfeng tribe. Li Zhuoran, the pagoda master of the Tao God Tower, the elders of the Tianfeng tribe, and even Zhu Ziyin, they are all gathered there. When Jian Shan mentioned Zhu Ziyin, he could not help but pause for a moment. Long Chen naturally understood. After listening to Jian Shan's analysis, he immediately nodded and said, "What you said does make sense." However, since it's a major matter between the Hong-Meng polar region and the Lin-Meng polar region, it's better to discuss it with those people. As he spoke up to hear, Sword 13 continued, "Master, when you revealed your true body earlier, I saw that the patriarchs of the two great tribes had some obscure thoughts left behind. Next, how should we face them?" Long Chen waved his hand and said, "If these two chiefs are smart people, they will definitely not make an issue of me in this regard. In the current situation, it's not up to them to argue about these origins with me." Now, the Hong-Meng polar region was like a clay bodhisattva crossing the river. It was difficult for them to protect themselves. How could they think about the ancestral teachings of the past thousands of years? Were they really going to fight to the death with the Dragon Clan? Such an approach was too absurd and laughable. After that, Long Chen looked at Hualei and Huayan. From their slightly pale faces, he knew that the previous battle must have consumed a lot of the sisters' essence. Long Chen said with concern, "The technique you used before should have caused some damage to your bodies. Are you okay?" Hualei shook her head and said, "Master, with the falling flower divine jade by my sister and I'm able to cope with this little consumption." Although Huayan did not say anything, he made a look of confirmation to Long Chen. Long Chen was still a little worried. He hurriedly glanced at Long Yuan. Long Yuan immediately understood and took out a lot of spiritual herbs that nourished essence. Hualei and Huayan looked at Long Chen and no longer modestly refused. They generously accepted them. "Let's go. This matter is over. It should be time to talk with the two patriarchs," Long Chen said calmly. On the other side, after the Hong-Meng polar region won the battle, the Hong-Meng Tian experts led by Patriarch Luo Hua and Patriarch Zishu could not help but cheer. Soon, those who came to the Blue Ocean tribe, led by Hai Qingling and Hai Qingyan, approached the two patriarchs. "This junior is Hai Qingyan of the Blue Ocean tribe. This time, I thank Patriarch Luo Hua and Patriarch Zishu for saving my life." Hai Qingyan had already recognized the origin of these people. He thanked them without hesitation. Patriarch Zishu nodded and said, "This is what we should do. When the Blue Ocean tribe suffered a calamity, our two tribes were busy protecting ourselves. We did not have time to help. This is where we are sorry." Hai Qingling said, "Senior's words are too serious. Now that the Lin-Meng polar region has invaded, if all the tribes in the Hong-Meng polar region had been able to unite at the beginning, we would not have ended up like this. But fortunately, now we can see that the major tribes are no longer in conflict. It is gratifying to let bygones be bygones." Patriarch Luo Hua smiled slightly and said, "I don't know where Yanqi Luo is now. We received the news that Yanqi Luo led a group of people here. It seems that he is planning something. Why haven't we seen Yanqi Luo's figure until now?" This. Hai Qingling paused and did not know where to start. Hai Qingyan, who was on the side, said, "Seniors, the reason for this matter is like this." Next, Hai Qingyan told Patriarch Zishu and Patriarch Zishu of the Luo Hua tribe what he had experienced during this period of time, especially the matter of Yanqi Luo. When he talked about how Yanqi Luo used his body to control the sword, self-detonated on the spot, and strongly repelled the experts of the Lin-Meng polar region, even the two patriarchs, who had experienced many storms, could not help but feel a little uncomfortable. After Hai Qingyan finished speaking, Patriarch Zishu's expression was slightly stagnant. He said, "That is to say, until Yan Qiluo's death, the Hongmeng Tao ancestors still did not appear?" Hai Qingyan did not know the whole story, but he nodded helplessly. Patriarch Luohua sighed and said, "It seems that the fate of the Hongmeng polar region really depends on what we should do next." As soon as she finished speaking, a voice suddenly came from afar. "Since it depends on our performance to determine the future of the Hongmeng polar region, why don't we fight to the death with the Linmeng polar region?" Chapter 2103. When the two patriarchs heard the voice, they immediately saw Longchen, Hualei, and the others floating slowly towards them. The person who said this was Longchen. Perhaps because of the heavenly dragon true body incident, the current Luohua patriarch looked at Longchen with a different expression. Longchen also noticed this slight change in her tone, but under the current situation, it was not good to argue with Luohua patriarch. Patriarch Zishu's expression was the same as usual. It seemed that his view of the overall situation was still as Longchen estimated. He was very clear about the priorities of the matter. "Longchen?" When Hai Qingling saw Longchen coming over, she took the initiative to greet him. Hai Qingling didn't know if Longchen still remembered her. When they first met in the small spiritual world, the two of them really didn't have much of a friendship. Longchen smiled slightly and said, "So it's Miss Hai Qingling." This simple sentence actually gave Hai Qingling a lot of peace and stability. Patriarch Zishu said, "What Mr. Longchen said before, is it true?" Longchen nodded and said, "Of course, I think Patriarch also saw the changes in the Great Elder, so this proves that our previous estimation was not wrong. The reason why Linmeng Polar region was able to summon so many experts from Hongmeng Tianjing was because they used a kind of elixir, and this elixir's efficacy has a time limit. This has caused the momentum of Linmeng Polar region's attack to be weaker than before. Now, we have thwarted Linmeng Polar region's attack twice in a row. I think, with this as the starting point, it's time to launch the final attack." Patriarch Zishu pondered for a moment and said, "This is true, but although we have achieved 2 victories now, with the strength of Patriarch Zishu and Luohua Patriarch, there is still no way to fight against those people from Linmeng Polar region. Not to mention, Linmeng Polar region has the help of the Tianfeng tribe, and Li Zhuoran is still a potential threat. I know what Patriarch Zishu is worried about, but the current situation doesn't allow us to hesitate anymore. If we delay any longer, Linmeng Polar region will refine a new elixir, which will give us more time to prepare. Time is also useless," Longchen analyzed calmly. Patriarch Zishu fell into a dilemma for a while and did not respond for a long time. In the end, it was still the chief of the Fallen Flower tribe who came out to smooth things over. She said, "This kind of thing, let's wait until we get back to the Fallen Flower tribe to think about it. Generally speaking, we were able to save the people of the Blue Sea tribe, which is already a great victory. As for other things, let's wait until we get back to the Fallen Flower tribe to think about it. What's more, our battle today will definitely be known by the people of the Linmeng Polar region. If we don't go back soon, the Fallen Flower tribe may be attacked. After all, the current Luohua tribe does not have any Hongmeng Tianjing experts to protect us. Well, we can only do this for now." Longchen also nodded helplessly and said, "Let's follow Patriarch Luohua Patriarch's words and return to Luohua tribe as soon as possible. There are some things that may be discussed by the ancestors of Zishu tribe." Longchen's meaning was that since Patriarch Zishu could not make up his mind, he would go and talk to his ancestors. Longchen was very familiar with Zishu Tianyang's expression. Zishu Tianyang would definitely raise both his hands and agree with Longchen's suggestion. Patriarch Luohua Patriarch waved at Hualei and Huayan. She seemed to know about Hualei and Huayan's situation and wanted to ask a few questions. Patriarch Zishu then turned to Hai Qingyan and said, "Nephew Qingyan, now that the Blue Sea tribe has been destroyed, you can't stay here any longer. If you don't mind, would you be willing to come with us to the Falling Flower tribe? If in the future we decide to go to war with Linmeng Polar region, we can also fight side by side." When Hai Qing Yan heard this, he immediately said, "Senior, thank you for your kindness in taking me in." Clan leader Zishu nodded his head and passed down some instructions. After a series of cleaning up of the battlefield, the battle soon came to an end. The traces of the battle were finally cleaned up. Longchen looked at the ruins of the Blue Sea tribe and couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Since the Blue Sea tribe was ranked as one of the top 10 tribes in Hongmeng Polar region, the Blue Sea tribe's foundation should be abnormally strong. But now, it had become like this. After that, under the leadership of Luohua Patriarch, everyone left this place and rushed towards the Luohua tribe. Hai Qingling and Hai Qingyan turned around and looked at the ruins of the Blue Sea tribe. They couldn't help but sigh. Perhaps they would never come back in this lifetime. Looking at it one more time could be considered as leaving some feelings behind. When they were about to leave, Jian Shan looked for Long Chen. There was a slight change in his expression. "What's wrong?" Long Chen felt that something was wrong with Jian Shan and asked. Jian Shan said, "Master, can I not go back to the Luohua tribe with you?" Long Chen frowned and said, "What do you want to do?" Jian Shan looked around and said, "Master, during the battle, the sword chi that I used didn't come from me. It was something that I captured in this space." Long Chen nodded and said, "So, you want to stay and find out where this sword chi came from?" Jian Shan said, "Yes, this sword chi is actually stronger than my own sword chi. Perhaps, this will be my opportunity to prove my Tao." Looking at Jian Shan's serious expression, Long Chen thought for a while and said, "Well, since you think it's feasible, it's not impossible for you to stay here for a while. However, you must be careful. The Lin Meng Polar region is likely to send people here to investigate. When that time comes, try not to fight. This disciple will remember." Jian Shan said slowly. After that, Long Chen and the others embarked on the journey back. When everyone returned to the Luohua tribe and the news of their victory spread, it immediately caused a burst of cheers from the people who stayed in the Luohua tribe. After the previous tribe integration, there were now dozens of tribes gathered in the Luohua tribe. Because of this, the people in the Luohua tribe didn't reject the newcomers to the Blue Sea tribe. In this way, after the Blue Sea tribe integrated, the Luohua tribe became a true alliance of the Hongmeng Polar region. Thus, the battle against the Lin Meng Polar region was fully launched. Chapter 2104. After a night of recuperation, with Patriarch Zishu as the leader, all the Hongmeng Tianjing experts in the Falling Flowers tribe were gathered for a meeting. In the main hall of the Falling Flowers tribe, almost all the important people were gathered. After Patriarch Zishu finished analyzing the current situation in the Hongmeng Polar region, he looked around, wanting to listen to the thoughts of the others. An elder took the lead and said, "In the current Hongmeng Polar region, other than the forces led by Lin Meng Tian, the only ones who can fight head-on are us. No matter when Lin Meng Tian's spirit pills can be used again, at least, there is one thing we can do. One thing I can guarantee is that Lin Meng Ji will definitely not let us off easily." Hearing this, everyone in the hall nodded in agreement. Now, Lin Meng Tian has suffered 2 defeats, and the great elder of the Tao God Pagoda is dead. It can be said that, just as Long Chen said, this is the best opportunity to deal with Lin Meng Tian. I think we can't give up on this opportunity. We must make good use of it. A patriarch of another tribe said. This is not appropriate. At this time, the elder who spoke before waved his hand and said, "Although on the surface we have the upper hand and the Lin Meng Polar region is gradually weakening, in a strict sense, the Lin Meng Polar region's forces are still greatly superior to ours. First of all, there are a group of Hongmeng Tianjing experts led by the Tao God Pagoda, the Heavenly Yin Demon Palace, and the Martial Ancestor Temple. Even if we don't add in the mysterious spirit pills, there are still nearly 100 Hongmeng Tianjing experts. There are nearly 100 Hongmeng Firmament Realm experts, plus the traitor Heavenly Wind tribe and the mysterious Li Zhuoran. Lin Mingji's forces are still as strong as ever. And on our side, after adding in the Blue Ocean tribe and the others, there are a total of 82 Hongmeng Tianjing experts. Just talking about this, it is not difficult to see that it is still difficult for us to defeat Lin Meng Tianjing. As soon as he finished speaking, the hall was in an uproar. Neither of the two methods was a safe and secure strategy. Defending the Falling Flowers tribe might be able to hold on for a period of time, but when Lin Meng Tianjing prepared the spirit pills again, there was only death left. The old Lin Meng Tianjing was higher than himself, so naturally, there was a great risk. At this time, Longchen stood up and said in a clear voice, "Elder's words just now naturally made sense, but if we don't take the initiative to attack, how are we going to expel these invaders from Lin Meng Tianjing? Even if Li Zhuoran, the pagoda master of the Dao God Pagoda, is guarding the Lin Meng Polar region, as far as I know, the upper echelons of the Heavenly Yin Demon Palace and the Martial Ancestor Temple did not come." In other words, other than Li Zhuoran and the pagoda master of the Dao God Pagoda, there is almost no one at the Lin Meng Polar region. Since ancient times, of Lin Meng Tians of the great of Lin Tianjing and Tower, of the ancient times, it. After saying that, many people in the hall nodded at Long Chen. Soon, someone agreed with Long Chen's words and said, "Although Lin Mengji's terrain is big, how is Hong Meng's polar region bad? If they really fight, it's hard to tell who will emerge victorious." Long Chen glanced at the person who spoke, then smiled and said, "The matter of the spirit pill is definitely the most important matter in the Lin Meng polar region. According to some information I received, the Lin Meng Polar region has already sent many people to Dragon City. Meng Jidi is going to hunt for the monster core, so we can't let Lin Meng Jidi delay any longer. If he wants to plan something big at that time, it will be really unfavorable for our Hong Meng Polar region." Once these words were spoken, many people in the palace trembled. Patriarch Zishu's eyes narrowed, and the way he looked at Long Chen changed slightly. At this time, Hai Qingling, who had been silent on the side of the hall, suddenly stood up and said, "Seniors, I, Hai Qingling of the Blue Ocean Tribe, have something to say." After everyone in the hall looked over, Hai Qingling said, "On the surface, although the Lin Meng Polar region has a great advantage, in some aspects, perhaps our Hong Meng Polar region is not weak." "Huh?" Patriarch Luohua frowned and looked at Hai Qingling in a daze. As we all know, when the Lin Meng Polar region invaded our Hong Meng Polar region, they slaughtered many large and small tribes with thunderous force. However, although these tribes were slaughtered, almost every tribe had some experts who used the secret method of the tribe to escape. These people were roughly the strength of Hong Meng Tianjing. However, after these people escaped, they were either seriously injured or disheartened. There were plenty of Heaven Realm elites. It's just that they don't show themselves on the surface. Hai Qingling said slowly. Then, Patriarch Luohua asked, "The people you mentioned, our Luohua tribe has tried to find them before. We wanted them to join the Luohua tribe and fight against the enemy together, but most of them were unwilling to come. We can't do anything about these people. What's more, since they are experts of the Hong Meng Tianjing, where in the Hong Meng Polar region is there not a place for them to stay? Many of them had already gone to the Pangmeng Polar region to seek a new life. They wanted to think. It's as difficult as ascending to the heavens to find these people." When Hai Qingling heard this, she smiled faintly and said, "This is because many experts have already been disappointed." Thinking about it, if at this time, we release the news that we have defeated the Lin Meng Polar land in 2 consecutive battles, and the Falling Flower tribe will no longer defend and choose to take the initiative to attack, I think that many experts will flock to help us fight against the Lin Meng Polar land. At that time, the gap between us and the Hong Meng Tianjing Polar region will gradually shrink. We might even surpass them. As soon as her voice fell, everyone in the hall couldn't help but be excited after thinking about it carefully. This method was indeed feasible. At this time, Patriarch Zishu suddenly stood up, looked at everyone in the hall, and said, "Everyone, do you think Hai Qingling's words are feasible? It's feasible. Let's go all out." For a time, many voices of agreement echoed in the hall. "In that case, my Zishu tribe is willing to take the lead. I will give the order to release the news. At that time, if there are really experts of the Hong Meng Tianjing Polar region coming to help, we will attack the Tianfeng tribe together and fight to the death with the Lin Meng polar region." Patriarch Zishu raised his arms and shouted. Chapter 2105. Under the command of Patriarch Zishu, the news of gathering the experts of Hongmeng Tianjing quickly spread in the Hongmeng polar region. Although at the beginning, many experts of the Hongmeng Tianjing did not take the news seriously because of their fear of the Lin Meng polar region, but soon, some experts of the Falling Flower tribe and Zishu tribe personally found those people. After some persuasion, those who were originally disheartened and wanted to leave Hongmeng were convinced. Some experts who had already left Hongmeng polar region joined the alliance formed by the Falling Flower tribe and Zishu tribe. In this way, 2 or 3 days passed, and the atmosphere in the Hongmeng polar region became more and more solemn. The Falling Flower city of the Falling Flower tribe naturally became the gathering place of many experts of the Hongmeng Tianjing. The purpose of these experts gathering here was to expel the people from the Lin Meng polar ground. In fact, it could even be said that they wanted to slaughter these invaders. When these experts learned about the situation in the Lin Meng polar region, they all rubbed their palms together. From time to time, they would climb up the Falling Flower city wall and look in the direction of the Tianfeng tribe, cursing a few times with a biting cold expression. Tianfeng tribe. Today's Tianfeng tribe has undergone earth-shaking changes compared to a year ago. In the past, the Tianfeng tribe was one of the top 10 tribes in the Hongmeng polar region. In any case, the Tianfeng tribe had the courage of a large tribe. What's more, the Tianfeng tribe's location was originally a fertile plain. Its tribal gathering place naturally looked more imposing than other tribes who lived in valleys, jungles, and seashores. But now, the Tianfeng tribe no longer had the refreshing atmosphere from before. The most eye-catching ones were the members of the Tianfeng tribe who could be seen everywhere in the tribe. Now, it was very difficult to see them. Even if a few people could be seen occasionally, most of them looked like they were in a hurry, as if they were afraid of causing trouble if they were too slow. The reason for all of this was that the 3 sects led by the Lin Meng Earth God Pagoda had moved into the Tianfeng tribe. The original Tianfeng tribe members, led by the patriarch of the Tianfeng tribe, betrayed the Hongmeng polar region and announced that they would fight side by side with the Lin Meng Earth God Pagoda. Then, they joined forces with the Lin Meng Earth God Pagoda to slaughter the strongest tribe in the Hongmeng polar region, the Hongmeng Earth God tribe. Although the result, they won the victory, the Tianfeng tribe had to pay a very heavy price. After that, the Tianfeng tribe, whose strength had been greatly reduced, offered up its tribal gathering place, allowing the people of the Lin Meng Earth God Pagoda to set up camp again. The other members of the Tianfeng tribe all moved to a remote area of the tribe. Now, in the ancestral hall of the Tianfeng tribe, 4 figures were sitting cross-legged in meditation. In front of them, there was a strange formation that had been set up. This formation wrapped the entire ancestral hall and then connected to the sky, allowing Hongmeng's aura to come from all directions of the ancestral hall. The aura could be adjusted by this formation and slowly enter the ancestral hall. It could be said that it was twice the result with half the effort to meditate again. The 4 figures sitting cross-legged, 3 men and 1 woman, did not look like they were from the Hongmeng Earth God Pagoda. The figure sitting cross-legged in front of the ancestral hall first withdrew the aura around his body, then slowly turned around and said, "It looks like the Zishu tribe and the Luohua tribe should be ready soon." When the woman behind him heard this, she smiled slightly and said, "It's just a matter of coming to die early. Even if they can gather 200 Hongmeng Tianjing experts, so what? The Hongmeng Earth God Pagoda is a loss of luck. If the mysterious Hongmeng Tao ancestor is willing to give up his tens of thousands of years of cultivation, then he can really save the Hongmeng Earth God Pagoda." This woman looked to be in her 30s or 40s, but for some reason, if one continued to stare at this woman's face, it would give off a cold and gloomy feeling. Then, one would realize that this woman in front of them seemed to be in her 80s. She looked to be in her 90s, but as far as the eyes could see, she still looked to be in her 30s or 40s. This woman was the palace master of the heavenly Demon Palace in the Lin Meng Earth God Pagoda. She looked to be close to 1,000 years old, but she still looked like she was in her 30s or 40s. The man who spoke earlier was the pagoda master of the Tao God Pagoda, Hua Shiyu. At this time, a man beside the old mother of Heavenly Yin spoke again. Although that's the case, the fall of the great elder of the Tao God Pagoda is really a variable. According to the last news from the great elder, pagoda master, about that Longchen kid, how much do you know about him? The pagoda master of the Tao God Pagoda nodded and said, Wu Kuang, if it's about Longchen, you should ask Li Zhuoran. Perhaps you'll know more. After all, Li Zhuoran has fought with Longchen before. As soon as he finished speaking, the man who had been standing at the edge of the ancestral hall snorted coldly and threw a cold look at the pagoda master of the Tao God Pagoda. He did not say much. After the pagoda master of the Tao God Pagoda said this, the man who was called Wu Kuang by the pagoda master of the Tao God Pagoda looked at Li Zhuoran in the corner and said, Seniorly, what kind of person is that Longchen? Wu Kuang was the youngest palace master in the history of the martial ancestors' sacred hall in the Lin Meng Earth God Pagoda. Li Zhuoran withdrew his Hong Meng aura and let out a long breath. He said, he has a spirit technique, and it's very likely that he also has a spirit cultivation method. Therefore, although this person called Longchen is only at the first level of Hong Meng Tianjing, his spirit power is very strong. It's very likely that his spirit power is stronger than any of the four of us. The master of the Tao Divine Tower could not help but narrow his eyes when he heard that. He said, You really do have some ability. I can understand soul techniques. After all, there are some people who are born with powerful souls, so they can naturally produce some sort of stimulation from the power of the soul. That's how Dang created the soul technique. However, since ancient times, only 9 people have created the soul cultivation technique. The pagoda master of the Tao God Pagoda's meaning was self-evident. The 9 people he was talking about were the 9 Hong Meng Tao ancestors who had appeared in the history of Hong Meng. Old Mother of the Heavenly Yin frowned and said, It seems that this Longchen has no choice but to die. Even if he has a heaven-shattering backer behind him, he can't obstruct us in this matter. Wu Kuang nodded and said, No matter what, he's still a kid at the first level of Hong Meng Tianjing. I don't believe that he can take 3 of my punches. Chapter 2106. Under the leadership of the Luohua tribe and the Zishu tribe, in just a few days, the atmosphere in the Hong Meng polar region had changed greatly. In any case, these Hong Meng Tianjing experts from various tribes gathered here for only one reason, and that was, the Lin Meng polar region had destroyed their homeland. Once the number of people increased, conflicts of various sizes were inevitable. However, these matters were easy to deal with. As long as someone stood aside to give some advice, the experts of the Hong Meng firmament realm would naturally not engage in such matters. They would be more calculative. However, there was one thing that was a little troublesome for Longchen. That was, the news that Longchen was from the Dragon Clan had almost spread throughout the Luohua city. Although on the surface, the people represented by the Luohua tribe and the Zishu tribe did not say much about it, those Hong Meng Tianjing experts who came after hearing the news did not see it this way. Especially when some of them did not know the real cause of Yin Qi Luo's death, these people were even more repulsed by Longchen's identity as a dragon clan. Some people even took the initiative to provoke Longchen. Fortunately, they were stopped by Hai Qingling of the Blue Ocean tribe. Otherwise, they might really cause trouble. For this reason, the Luohua tribe and the Zishu tribe also had a slight headache for a while. After all, if this matter was passed down earlier, it would not be known by everyone. But fortunately, Longchen also explained his intention to the eldest son of the Luohua tribe, the Zishu tribe. When the war was over, he would return to the Long Meng polar region as soon as possible and would no longer intervene in the affairs of the Hong Meng polar region. Although the Luohua tribe and the Zishu tribe seemed to be a little apologetic, in their hearts, they were probably very satisfied with Longchen's approach. The city walls of the Luohua city were already full of people. The noise came one after another, and the aura of Hong Meng fluctuated continuously, making the city extremely noisy. Hong Meng Tianjing experts were not the only ones who came to the Luohua city. Many Hongmeng people who had nowhere to go also came to the Luohua city to find a refuge. The reason why these people stood on the city walls was that in the Luohua city, they could only vaguely see the location of the Tianfeng tribe in the distance from here. Some experts could even see the detailed scenery of the Tianfeng tribe. Naturally, this place became the best place for these experts of Hongmeng Tianjing to vent their hatred. According to the date set by the Zishu tribe, it was about time for them to attack the Tianfeng tribe. Boom! While the people on the city wall were thinking about it, a majestic Hongmeng aura suddenly rose in Luohua city. This Hongmeng aura was shrouded in a majestic aura, immediately causing some of the people on the city wall to be shocked. Those who had reached the Hongmeng Tianjing level felt a lot of pressure. Along with this aura, dozens of Hongmeng Tianjing experts rose. Everyone looked up and immediately saw the Luohua tribe leader, the Zishu tribe leader, and several Hongmeng Tianjing experts behind them. Of course, these people were not the focus of the people on the city walls. The people on the city walls paid the most attention to Long Chen, who followed the Zishu tribe leader. That guy is Long Chen. Is he really from the Dragon Clan in the Longming Polar region? Soon, some curious people asked the people around them. Someone immediately replied, "That's right. Moreover, he's from the Heavenly Dragon bloodline, which has the strongest murderous aura in the Dragon Clan. I heard that he was able to forcefully suppress the Tao God Pagoda of the 9th level of the Hongmeng Firmament Realm when he was only at the 1st level of the Hongmeng Firmament Realm. The Great Elder couldn't lift his head. Then, with the help of Hualei and Huayan of the Luohua tribe, he successfully destroyed the divine soul of the Great Elder of the Daoshan Pagoda. It should be the work of Hualei and Huayan. Can a Hongmeng Tianjing's Daoshan Pagoda really be so powerful? Don't forget, he is from the Dragon Clan. I heard that when he showed the Heavenly Dragon real body, he directly displayed a strength that was far beyond his own Daoshan Pagoda. Otherwise, why do you think our Hongmeng Tao ancestor wanted to kill the Dragon Clan? What you said makes sense. However, I never expected that the Dragon Clan would actually come and lend us a hand when our primordial polar region is facing a great calamity. What's the reason behind this? It seems that Long Chen had some connections with the Hongmeng polar region in his early years. 6 years ago, Long Chen went to the small spiritual world, but no one can tell what happened there. Forget it, these things are all in the past. Now that the enemy is in front of us, we really can't care about these unimportant things. As long as Long Chen can help the Hongmeng polar region wholeheartedly, the past events have nothing to do with us. Let's not talk about relationships. At present, killing all the bastards in the Lin Meng polar region is the most important thing. That's reasonable. Soon, the people on the city wall calmed down again. Everyone looked at the group of Hongmeng Tianjing experts, led by Patriarch Zishu and Patriarch Luohua, who had already floated outside Luohua city. Patriarch Zishu took a step forward and said loudly to the city wall, "Everyone, I think that after a few days of accumulation, everyone has become familiar with each other. Although our Zishu tribe was not the leader of the Hongmeng polar region in the past, now that the Hongmeng polar region is in trouble, and the other 10 tribes have been slaughtered, our Zishu tribe has to come out and be the leader. In the past, when the other tribes were in trouble, our Zishu tribe did not lend a helping hand because of the situation. Please forgive us. Now that we have gathered together, we are plotting something big, and we want to destroy the invaders in the Lin Meng polar region." These words were, of course, the respectful words of the Zishu tribe. It was not a simple matter to gather these people from all the major tribes. To be able to get them to fight as one was even more difficult to control. Therefore, for the sake of the overall situation, even if the Zishu tribe was the host, they had to humble themselves and strive to let these Hongmeng Tianjing experts fight seriously against the Lin Meng polar region. At this time, a figure suddenly floated on the city wall. It was an old man who looked hale and hearty. He looked back at the people on the city wall, and then he cupped his hands to Patriarch Zishu and said, "Patriarch Zishu, you are too serious. The Hongmeng polar region's tribes are scattered. Moreover, the people in the Lin Meng polar region are cunning and insidious, and at the same time, they have the help of the Tianfeng tribe. The fact that the Zishu tribe can protect themselves and do what they do now is enough to make the Hongmeng Polar region feel gratified. Chapter 2107. After the elder finished speaking, clan head Zishu hurriedly looked over. Both of his eyebrows lifted slightly as he asked, "Elder Fong?" The old man chuckled and nodded. Although Patriarch Zishu did not reveal Elder Fong's true identity, everyone present seemed to know Elder Fong's true identity. Immediately, there was an uproar as everyone began to discuss. Long Chen, who was standing behind Patriarch Zishu, could not help but feel curious. He turned to look at Zishu Tianyang, who was about to set off with them, and asked, "Who is this Elder Fong?" Vaguely, Long Chen seemed to sense some aura related to the rules from Elder Fong's body. It was as if there were several runes around Elder Fong. Zishu Tianyang narrowed his eyes slightly and said, "The great elder of the Fangsuan tribe. I am also a little surprised. Originally, the Fangsuan tribe was the first to be slaughtered, and everyone thought that no one had survived. I did not expect Elder Fong to appear here." Long Chen understood tacitly and said, "How strong is this Elder Fong's strength?" Zishu Tianyang pondered for a moment and said, "I heard that he has advanced to the 9th layer of Hongmeng Tianjing decades ago. If we really compete, Elder Fong will definitely not be able to defeat the few people from Linmeng Tianjing in terms of killing. However, Elder Fong represents the Fangsuan tribe, which is famous for its runes and spells. If Elder Fong can draw a few runes and spells in this battle, it can be said to be a great help." "I see." After listening to Zishu Tianyang's explanation, Long Chen nodded. He finally understood why he could sense the aura of the runes around Elder Fong. Patriarch Zishu then made an inviting gesture to Elder Fong. Elder Fong also understood tacitly. He immediately flew up and floated beside Patriarch Zishu. After exchanging some pleasantries, Patriarch Zishu once again looked at the people on the city wall and spoke loudly. Then, he said in a clear voice, "Now that Lin Meng has suffered 2 major defeats in the polar region, his strength is severely depleted. The number of Hongmeng Vast Heaven Realm experts is also decreasing. This is the best time for us to end this battle." While Long Chen was listening to Clan Chief Zishu's words, he inadvertently looked at everyone present and noticed that many people were looking at him. Long Chen naturally understood why, but due to the current situation, he could not do anything about it. Long Chen had already made up his mind. After this matter was settled, he would bid farewell to his friends in Hongmeng Polar region and leave Hongmeng Polar region to meet up with Longmu in Longmeng Polar region. He would strive to settle the matters of the dragon tribe before heading to Longhui. The clan was waiting for Ali's return. Speaking of which, Long Chen missed Ali a little. However, even though the Lin Meng Polar region is declining now, with the alliance of the 3 major sects of the Lin Meng Polar region and the help of Li Zhuoran, they can't be underestimated. Therefore, if we want to win this war, we must unite and gather our strength. Now that we have gathered together, there are nearly 200 Hongmeng Tianjing experts in our team. With this strength, we can fight against the Lin Meng Polar region. Patriarch Zishu said loudly. Then, Elder Fong also took a step forward and said, "I believe everyone present knows me. That's right, I am the great elder of the Fangsuan tribe. Back then, the Lin Meng Polar region besieged my Fangsuan tribe with thunderous means. The entire Fangsuan tribe was slaughtered, and I was the only one who escaped with a secret method. These days, I have been disheartened, but there is always a thought in my heart that I can't get rid of, and that is, no matter what, I must avenge this great enmity and kill those who invaded our Hongmeng Polar region. Kill all of them." Elder Fong's words are reasonable. After the Lin Meng Polar region and I are irreconcilable, the purpose of our trip is to have a decisive battle with the Lin Meng Polar region. However, speaking of this matter, I think we also have to discuss a countermeasure regarding the Tianfeng tribe. However, when the war starts, if the Tianfeng tribe still helps the Lin Meng Polar region, I have to say, this will be a great loss to us. At this time, someone on the city wall raised an opinion. The traitor of the Tianfeng tribe should be treated the same as the people of the Lin Meng Polar region and be slaughtered. the Tianfeng tribe has some strength after all. Among them, there are more than a dozen experts from Hongmeng Tianjing, which is enough of a headache. Not to mention, the battlefield of this war is the Tianfeng tribe's residence. If we can get the help of the Tianfeng tribe, it will be a great loss. For us, it will be a great help. Since the Tianfeng tribe has already betrayed us, how can they help us? Soon, after the words of the previous person, the city wall immediately fell into a heated discussion. The matter was gradually getting out of hand. Longchen couldn't help but look at the person who started this topic. At the same time, he also felt some aura of the law curse seal on him. What surprised Longchen even more was that this person actually looked at Elder Fang several times. It was as if he knew Elder Fang. However, didn't Elder Fang just say that he was the only survivor of the entire Fang Cun tribe? Zishu, do you know the person who started this topic? Longchen pointed at the person who started this topic and then asked Zishu Tianyang. Zishu Tianyang shook his head and said, I don't remember. There must be some clues in this matter. However, Longchen could not figure out what exactly was going on. At this time, Patriarch Zishu came out again to stabilize the situation and said in a clear voice, everyone, please don't quarrel. We won't talk about the Tianfeng tribe for the time being. We can talk about this when the war starts. Now, the most important thing is to rush to the Tianfeng tribe's residence and fight the Linmeng polar region. After he finished speaking, the experts didn't say anything more. Now, if the experts of Hongmeng Tianjing are willing to fight under the leadership of our Zishu tribe, you can set off with us. The experts of Hongmeng Yuanjie can also follow us. However, when the war starts, please stay away from the Yuanjie realm. Stay away from the battlefield to avoid being affected. At this time, the gap between Hongmeng Tianjing and Hongmeng Yuanjie was immediately revealed. The war that concerned the fate of the two polar regions could only be decided by the experts of Hongmeng Tianjing. The Hongmeng Yuanjie was just a marginal figure. Now, let's set off for the Tianfeng tribe and fight the Linmeng polar region. Fight! The uniform shouts resounded through the sky, and the whole Luohua city seemed to tremble. As the aura of Hongmeng rose, the figures on the city wall jumped up one by one and immediately followed Patriarch Zishu to the Tianfeng tribe. Chapter 2108. Tianfeng tribe. At this time, a few Hongmeng Yuanjie from the Linmeng polar region, who were standing guard at the front of the Tianfeng tribe, were standing on top of the city gate with solemn expressions. The Hongmeng aura around these people showed an unstable posture. However, these Hongmeng Yuanjie did not show any signs of fighting. Instead, they walked as usual. What was even more frightening was that these Hongmeng Yuanjie people were actually used to this kind of phenomenon. Although these people were the sentries of the entire Tianfeng tribe, their purpose was to find out if anyone had come back to cause trouble. However, in the past, there was no such post. It was only a few days ago that these Hongmeng Yuanjie people were sent over. In the past, the Linmeng polar land had swept through the entire Hongmeng polar land in a very short period of time, causing 9 out of 10 tribes to be wiped out. The remaining 2 tribes could only cower in the cities, not daring to show their faces. This caused the people of the Linmeng polar land to cheer. They thought that once their sect master had recovered from his injuries from the battle with the Ashen Cloud tribe, they would be able to deal with the remaining 2 tribes. As a result, the Linmeng polar land had truly become a force to be reckoned with. In the end, the Linmeng polar region had truly defeated the Hongmeng polar region. However, just a few days ago, bad news for the Linmeng polar region came one after another, immediately causing the Linmeng polar region, who had already lost their determination to win, to waver. First, one of Senior Li Zhuoran's doppelganger puppets failed, and then the soul of the great elder of the Tao God Pagoda was destroyed. Now, it was said that the Falling Flower tribe and the Zishu tribe had already begun to gather their troops and were preparing to attack the Tianfeng tribe. They wanted to capture all of the people of the Linmeng polar region in one fell swoop. This kind of contrast made the people of the Linmeng polar region and the Tianfeng tribe somewhat anxious. Therefore, the establishment of the sentries was inevitable. From time to time, a few Hongmeng Yuan Jia people would look into the distance to see if the rumored falling flower tribe and the Zishu tribe would really lead their troops over. Suddenly, one of the Hongmeng Yuan Jia people who was looking into the distance frowned and turned to his companions and shouted, "Look, what is that?" Before his voice fell, the Hongmeng Yuan Jia people on the city wall rushed out at the same time and rose into the air, looking in the direction from before. Quickly inform the sect leaders, that is the people of the Zishu tribe. In next to no time, someone saw through the cause of the primordial origin ripple, and a layer of surprise immediately appeared on the faces of those primordial origin realm experts. Then, someone rushed out and rushed straight into the depths of the Tianfeng tribe. The remaining few people floated in the air and saw the strong Hongmeng fluctuations in front of them more clearly. Densely packed figures danced in the air, and the majestic Hongmeng Qi aura surged, making the few Hongmeng Yuan Jia people a little unsteady. Suddenly, one of the Hongmeng Yuan Jia people seemed to realize something and quickly shouted, "Retreat, there is someone." No one could hear what the Hongmeng Yuan Jia was about to say. The reason was that when the Hongmeng Yuan Jia shouted, an extremely sharp sword Qi directly pierced through his neck. Before the few Hongmeng Yuan Jia people around him could react from the shock, several more sword Qi swept out and drew a few sharp arcs in the air. When the arcs dissipated, the few Hongmeng Yuan Jia people were beheaded. Somewhere. Jian Shan thought that with the strength of the Hongmeng Tianjing people, dealing with the Hongmeng Yuan Jia people should be easy. These poor Hongmeng Yuan Jia people didn't even have the chance to use their best domain technique. They died without knowing why, and they didn't even know who killed them. When Jian Shan landed, the large army led by clan leader Zishu finally arrived. This Tianfeng tribe was now occupied by the Hongmeng Polar region's revenge team. Soon, clan leader Zishu ordered some Hongmeng Tianjing people to spread out and completely surrounded the entire Tianfeng tribe. The invaders of the Lin Meng Polar region, as well as the sect leaders of the Lin Meng Polar region, were all surrounded. As for the Heavenly Wind tribe, they naturally would not resign themselves to their fate. Very quickly, after realizing that something had happened, the people from the Lin Meng Polar region, who were originally resting or cultivating, all leapt out one after another. After a short period of time, after a short while, some powerful Hongmeng Tianjing people gathered and attacked clan leader Zishu. "Let's fight!" Clan leader Zishu shouted. He immediately set an example and charged towards the Hongmeng Tianjing people who counterattacked. At this moment, the Hongmeng Tianjing people who followed clan leader Zishu naturally didn't stay idle. They immediately followed clan leader Zishu and surrounded the people of the Lin Meng Polar region who rushed over. "Kill!" Battle cries rang out one after another, and the vibrating power of Hongmeng's aura surged to the point of controlling the Tianfeng tribe. The flames of revenge that had been burning in the hearts of the Hongmeng Polar region experts for a long time finally erupted at this time. "A mantis trying to stop a chariot. You're overestimating yourself." However, just as the people of the Hongmeng Polar region were preparing to attack with all their might, a slightly mocking voice suddenly sounded from the deepest part of the Tianfeng tribe. Before the others could react, they sensed that the voice was coming from the depths of the Tianfeng tribe. This was because a vast and boundless aura shockwave surged out and directly blasted over without any room for error. This shockwave didn't care whether the people in front of it were from the Hongmeng Polar region or not. As long as it hit their bodies, it would directly destroy their divine souls, leaving no trace of life. However, most of the people who died under the shockwave were from the Lin Meng Polar region. After the people of the Hongmeng Polar region realized that something was wrong, they temporarily retreated under the leadership of clan leader Zishu and successfully avoided this attack. In an instant, under the gray sky, the two forces were like fire and water, and the atmosphere of mutual hostility was directly rendered in the entire space. At this time, the people of the Lin Meng Polar region had already lost many people. However, clan leader Zishu was surprised that no one from the Tianfeng tribe had shown up. This was a rather strange thing. There were no members of the Tianfeng tribe in the Tianfeng tribe? Then where did the people of the Tianfeng tribe go? Chapter 2109. When the Hongmeng attack from the depths of the Tianfeng tribe fell, more and more Hongmeng Tianjing experts from the Linmeng polar region rushed over. Only then did the two forces begin their real confrontation. With the appearance of these people, many people from the Hongmeng polar region began to feel extremely dissatisfied, as if they saw many figures who had attacked their tribe before. For a time, the anger of the Hongmeng polar region was completely ignited. It was ignited. Together, Long Chen and Long Yuan patrolled the entire Tianfeng tribe at an extremely fast speed. Although they did not find any clues, under such circumstances, it was better to be careful. At this time, Patriarch Zishu took a step forward and shouted towards the depths of the Tianfeng tribe, Tao God Tower, Heavenly Yin Demon Palace, Martial Ancestor Temple, and Li Zhuoran, at this time, are you still planning to be cowards? Long Chen glanced at the mighty Patriarch Zishu and could not help but feel a little relieved. Then, he looked towards the depths of the Tianfeng tribe, but did not find anything strange. I originally planned to let you live for a few more days, but I didn't expect that you would take the initiative to throw away your lives. You really don't know what's good for you. Suddenly, a counterattack came from the depths of the Tianfeng tribe. In an instant, the morale of the Hongmeng Tianjing experts in the Linmeng polar region was greatly boosted. On the other hand, the Hongmeng polar region's side was slightly flustered. Before Patriarch Zishu could speak, Elder Fang, who was beside Patriarch Zishu, said angrily, "Cowardly, if you have the ability, then show yourself." Before his voice fell, a burst of strange brilliance suddenly appeared beside Elder Fang. As the Hongmeng aura fluctuated, the brilliance instantly condensed into a seal. Then, under Elder Fang's control, the seal moved at an extremely fast speed towards the source of the sound. It swept towards the original source of the voice. As the seal moved forward, there were many Hongmeng Tianjing experts who wanted to stop it. However, when those people came into contact with the seal, most of them frowned and quickly retreated. Presumably, this Elder Fang from the Fangsun tribe must have used some sort of strange technique. Just as the seal was about to hit the ancestral hall of the Tianfeng tribe, a fiendish power suddenly rushed out from the Tianfeng tribe and shattered the seal in the air. At this time, another voice rang out, "Old man Fang Siyuan, you're quite capable to be able to escape from the siege of the three of us. However, you're a little ignorant. How dare you take the initiative to come to us?" When the voice fell, 4 figures appeared in the ancestral hall of the Tianfeng tribe. The person at the front was the pagoda master of the Tao God Pagoda, Hua Shanyu. At this time, Hua Shanyu looked at the many Hongmeng Tianjing experts with a slightly playful expression, as if he was prepared. Next to Hua Shanyu was the temple master of the Martial Ancestor Temple, Wu Kuang, and the old mother of the Heavenly Yin Demon Palace. Behind the 3 of them was Li Zhuoran, who did not choose to reveal himself. At this time, Li Zhuoran's face was gloomy, as if he was preparing some terrifying move. Now, the 5 people led by Lin Meng Tianjing, as well as the great elder of the Tao God Pagoda, whose soul had been destroyed, were all present. On the side of the Hongmeng polar region, there were only a few people who could match them. Although there was no lack of Hongmeng Tianjing experts in Patriarch Zishu, Patriarch Luohua, and some of the other Hongmeng Tianjing experts in their tribes, there was still a big gap between them. In other words, Elder Fang of the Fangsun tribe could fight, but judging from the Fangsun tribe's habit of not being good at killing and fighting, he probably could not hold on for long. Therefore, on the side of the Hongmeng polar region, the only ones who could fight these 4 people were the 2 sisters, Hua Lei and Hua Yan. Long Chen, Long Yuan, and Jian Shan could almost hold off one of them. Then, Elder Fang could hold off one of them, and the remaining one needed to be dealt with by Patriarch Zishu and Patriarch Luohua. Although this could also show the advantage of the Hongmeng polar region, Long Chen still had some unstable thoughts. It was as if something was about to happen. To a certain extent, it would give Long Chen a heavy blow. Why hadn't he seen Zhu Ziyin yet? Long Chen remembered very clearly what the great elder had said before he died. Therefore, what he had to deal with next might be more difficult than Long Chen had imagined. Long Chen let out a long breath and gathered with Long Yuan and Jian San. He took care of Hualei and Huayan as far as he could see. At the same time, he kept an eye on the surrounding experts of the Lin Meng polar region, afraid that something unexpected would happen. And at this time, the pagoda master of the Dao God Pagoda, Hua San, said in a clear voice, "I still don't know if that is Long Chen who defeated Li Zhuoran's puppet body and destroyed the soul of our great elder of the Dao God Pagoda." As soon as he finished speaking, Long Chen did not hide anything. He immediately jumped up and rushed to the side of Patriarch Zishu. He said to Hua San, "I am Long Chen. How about it?" At this time, Li Zhuoran, who was standing behind Hua San, seemed to twitch the corner of his mouth. "So it's the body of a dragon, and it's the heavenly dragon bloodline that has the strongest killing power. You really do have some tricks," Hua San said with a smile. Long Chen could not help but be shocked. Logically speaking, it was impossible for Hua San to know his identity. In other words, Hua San had seen through Long Chen's true identity at first glance. What kind of terrifying strength was this? "What, are you afraid? I want to ask, where is Zhu Ziyin, who was forced to join you in the Dao God Pagoda a few hundred years ago?" At this time, Long Chen could not lose his momentum no matter what. He could only change the topic. "See you at the door." Hua San asked Hua San about Zhu Ziyin's whereabouts. Hearing Long Chen's words, Li Zhuoran, who was standing behind Hua San, twitched the corner of his mouth. Hua San frowned, turned around and looked back at Li Zhuoran, then asked, "You actually know Zhu Ziyin? Who are you?" "You don't need to know who I am. What I want to know is, where is Zhu Ziyin now? Your great elder told me that Zhu Ziyin is in the Tianfeng tribe right now." Long Chen shouted sternly. Hua San stabilized her emotions and said, "Do you want to know where Zhu Ziyin is? It's very simple. When you die, perhaps the souls of the two of you will meet again in the Yellow Springs." Long Chen naturally knew that Hua San was provoking him. Of course, he did not believe Hua San's words. Then, Long Chen began to slowly circulate the aura around his body, preparing to fight with Hua San. Chapter 21:10. Almost at the same time, just as the Hongmeng aura around Long Chen had finished condensing, Hua Shanyu, who was in front of him, also had his Hongmeng aura floating around him. Then, his face darkened, and an avatar suddenly appeared in front of him. It was the body of nothingness formed by the power of Hongmeng and the power of spirit. It was almost impossible to see the outline of this body of nothingness with the naked eye, but through the fluctuating Hongmeng aura in the air, all the Hongmeng Tianjing experts present could clearly perceive this body of nothingness. Soon after, as if a thought had passed through Hua Shayu's mind, she saw the illusory body charging forward at an extremely fast speed. The primordial break attack power that was created when the body flashed past caused an incomparable ripple to appear in the air. Then, under the influence of Hua Shanyu in the distance, a layer of thick fog appeared, following closely behind the body of nothingness to attack Long Chen. At this time, Patriarch Zishu was the first to realize that something was wrong, and hurriedly tried to block this attack for Long Chen. Unexpectedly, Long Chen gently waved his hand, and then directly released his heavenly dragon bloodline. The power of spirit poured down and immediately condensed Long Chen's true heavenly dragon. Without hesitation, Long Chen transferred his spirit into the true heavenly dragon body at an extremely fast speed. "You really don't regard me as an outsider." Seeing Long Chen release the true heavenly dragon body for the first time, Wu Kuang was quite surprised. He had been in the Lin Meng polar region for so many years, and he had always heard of the legends of the Dragon Clan. He had seen it before. At this time, Long Chen controlled the true heavenly dragon body and rushed out. With an unstoppable impact, he wrapped the Hongmeng aura in the air caused by the body of nothingness. Then, he condensed his aura and rushed forward for a long distance. It was as if it was ready to fight to the death with the nihility body. The surrounding Hongmeng vast heaven realm experts were shocked when they saw this. Many people were shocked by Long Chen's true body of the heavenly dragon, and were even more surprised that Long Chen, who was only at the first level of Hongmeng Tianjing, dared to go head-on against the pagoda master, the 9th level of Hongmeng Tianjing, Hua Shiyu. Boom! The heavenly dragon true body, wrapped in a huge force, collided with the illusory body in midair. The Hongmeng force that swept up by the two immediately exploded, tearing the space apart. After which, the sound of Hongmeng's energy exploding suddenly disappeared. The thing that shocked everyone was that the illusory body that was formed by Hua Shiyu had already disappeared in the air. At the same time, Long Chen had also disappeared. The true body of the heavenly dragon. Looking into the distance, Hua Shanyu's real body furrowed his brows tightly. There seemed to be extreme anger in his expression. Kill! A Hongmeng force condensed from the power of the heavenly dragon surged out. Before anyone could sense where this force came from, the pagoda master of the Tao God Pagoda, Hua Shiyu, clenched his fists tightly, and his expression turned pale at the same time. Clearly, a wave of killing intent approached Hua Shiyu. To be honest, the success rate of Long Chen's move was so slim that it was almost negligible. With Hua Shiu's strength, it was impossible for him to be hit by such a straightforward sneak attack from Long Chen. However, what made Hua Shiu angry was not, at this moment, Hua Shiu felt that a person at the first level of Hongmeng Tianjing actually dared to do such a reckless thing to him. However, he couldn't do anything to Long Chen without using his true strength. This was indeed a loss of face. When the Hongmeng force was about to approach Hua Shiu finally caught the source of the killing intent. Then, without any hesitation, he directly pushed out a palm and heavily blasted towards Long Chen's real body. Long Chen naturally had his concerns in this situation. He immediately retreated, and his figure once again appeared in the air. Then, he hurriedly returned to the side of clan leader Zishu. At the same time, the force that Long Chen blasted towards Hua Shiu was also shattered by the force around Hua Shiu's body. In this battle, although Long Chen had intentionally stopped when the time came, in terms of the overall situation, Long Chen could be said to have gained a great advantage. First, Long Chen used the power of the heavenly dragon's real body to forcefully shatter the body of nothingness. Then, he was able to take advantage of the situation to toy with Hua Shiu. It could be said that he had succeeded in making a name for himself. After the battle ended, Wu Kuang, who was beside Hua Shiu, twitched his mouth and said, "Pagoda Master, why are you so apprehensive when dealing with an ant in the first layer of Hongmeng Tianjing? Even if there are experts in the polar regions of Hongmeng eyeing us covetously, do you think that we are fools? Are you an idiot? Naturally, we will lend a helping hand at the critical moment." Humph! Hua Shiu coldly snorted and said, "This kid is able to force my Tao God Pagoda's great elder to the point where his spirit is destroyed. He must have some tricks up his sleeve. We must not deal with him so easily." At this moment, Li Zhuoran, who had not shown his face all this time, finally opened his mouth and said, "Previously, that kid said that he was looking for Zhu Ziyin, right?" Hua Shiu smiled and said, "That's right." Li Zhuoran continued, "Then let him meet Zhu Ziyin. Perhaps this will bring him some surprises." Hua Shiu hurriedly nodded and turned to smile at Long Chen in the distance. Then, he moved to the side, leaving a path for Li Zhuoran behind him. At this moment, Li Zhuoran's figure swept forward. In midair, the rich aura of Hongmeng surged. Around Li Zhuoran, streams of fiendish energy immediately rose. This movement naturally attracted the attention of the experts in the polar regions of Hongmeng. Many of the people present were extremely curious about the real body of Li Zhuoran, who was famous in the polar regions of Linmeng. Huff huff, as Li Zhuoran's footsteps moved, the sound of wind breaking seemed to resound through the clouds. At this moment, Hua Shiu shouted at Long Chen, "Didn't you want to meet Zhu Ziyin? Although I don't know what your relationship with Zhu Ziyin is, I'll let you meet him today." When his voice fell, Li Zhuoran, who had swept to the front, happened to raise his head. The slightly handsome face of a man immediately appeared in front of the people in the polar regions of Hongmeng. This is impossible. The moment Long Chen saw Li Zhuoran's real face, he could not help but panic. At this moment, Jian San also walked forward. Looking at the familiar face, Jian San could not react for a moment. Chapter 21:11. In Hongmeng Polar region, other than Long Chen and Jian San, no one else had seen Zhu Ziyi's appearance. What they were surprised about was Li Zhuoran's true appearance. Only Long Chen and Jian San knew that this appearance belonged to Zhu Ziyi. In other words, the current Li Zhuoran had forcefully taken over Zhu Ziyi's body. Long Chen suddenly recalled the news that Jian San had heard when he was in Hongmeng Polar region. Now that he thought about it, the fragments came together, and when he thought about Li Zhuoran's encounter, Long Chen understood many things without waiting for others to explain. 1,000 years ago, due to an unforeseen event, the body of Li Zhuoran, the #1 person in Lin Meng Polar region at that time, was shattered. His soul also suffered great injuries, and he had no choice but to use the Shadow Maze track to survive. At this time, the Tao God Pagoda, which was developing and growing, took in Li Zhuoran's soul, hoping that in the future, Li Zhuoran could become a great help to the Tao God Pagoda. Nearly 500 years ago, the people of the Tao God Pagoda discovered Zhu Ziyi's special physique and brought him back to the Tao God Pagoda. Although no one knew what happened, it could be said that Zhu Ziyi had become the Li Zhuoran of today. Li Zhuoran, or rather, Li Zhuoran had become Zhu Ziyi. Soon, an unconcealable anger gradually surfaced on Long Chen's face. At this time, Jian San slowly said, "It is indeed Zhu Ziyi. There can be no mistake." Before Long Chen and the other two came to Hongmeng, the three of them were so familiar that they could not be more familiar with each other. Even if they had not seen each other for so many years, they could still recognize each other at a glance. At this time, Li Zhuoran looked at Long Chen, his eyes flickering with cunning and gloominess. "If I'm not mistaken, you and Zhu Ziyi are master and disciple, right? It has to be said that the physiques of the two of you are really 1 in a million. You are the heavenly dragon bloodline that has not appeared in Hongmeng for tens of thousands of years, and Zhu Ziyi is even rarer. Some had the body of a divine phoenix. With such a physique, even if you cultivate with your eyes closed, you will still be able to improve much faster than me." Li Zhuoran mocked. Long Chen became even angrier when he heard such inappropriate words from a familiar face. "Where's the real Zhu Ziyi now?" Long Chen forcefully suppressed the anger in his heart and said word by word. Beside Long Chen, Jian San also released his piercingly cold sword energy around his body, his expression solemn. Li Zhuoran snorted coldly and said, "Where else can he be? In order to take over this body, I spent a lot of energy. I was almost defeated by that brat Zhu Ziyi. You say, I have successfully taken over this body now. After taking over this body, would there still be a chance for him to survive?" Upon hearing this, Long Chen pursed his lips and said through gritted teeth, "You will pay for this." Li Zhuoran's face was full of disdain as he said, "How dare you be so arrogant when you're only at the first level of the Hongmeng firmament realm? I was defeated by you last time because my puppet body was not complete. Now, I'm going to tear you into pieces." At this time, just as Li Zhuoran finished speaking, Li Zhuoran's body, which was Zhu Ziyi's body, trembled. Then, the way Li Zhuoran looked at Long Chen suddenly changed. It was a little emotional. Then, Li Zhuoran's body suddenly twitched a few times. Then, Li Zhuoran's expression was ferocious. The aura of the Hongmeng around him was extremely unstable. His originally cold and emotionless face was full of sobs. Then, his lips moved slightly, and a slightly hoarse voice came out from it. "Master," this voice contained endless loneliness, but at the same time, it also contained an indescribable gratitude. When the voice reached Long Chen's ears, Long Chen immediately froze on the spot. Then, after thinking for a while, Long Chen seemed to know something. He immediately shouted at Li Zhuoran, "Zhu Ziyi, are you really Zhu Ziyi?" Before Long Chen's voice fell, Li Zhuoran instantly recovered from this change. Then, he hurriedly shook his head, and then pushed with both hands. The powerful aura of Hongmeng shook out from the side of his body, and directly blasted into the distance aimlessly. In the sky, a burst of Hong Meng's explosion resounded through the clouds. I didn't expect that there was still a wisp of spirit left in this body. The nirvana power of the divine phoenix body is indeed not to be underestimated. At this time, Li Zhuoran, who had returned to his previous ice-cold expression, cursed. Long Chen immediately understood the whole story. Thinking about it, there was still Zhu Xian's spirit power in this body. Previously, because Zhu Xian's wisp of spirit power was different from Long Chen's aura, he did his best to temporarily control this body. He took control of the body that originally belonged to him and called Long Chen master. Long Chen immediately shouted, "Li Zhuoran, quickly return this body to Zhu Xian." Li Zhuoran coldly shouted, "Before saying this, don't you think about what kind of thing you are? If it was 1,000 years ago, when I was at my peak, if I met a brat like you who didn't care about his life, you wouldn't have lived to this day." Long Chen's expression was furious, and the aura of Hong Meng around him fluctuated. When he thought about how Zhu Xian might have been suppressed and tortured by Li Zhuoran for the past few hundred years, Long Chen couldn't help but feel a pang of heartache. "Sure San, Long Yuan, do it." At this time, Long Chen no longer cared about the situation of the battle between Hong Meng and Lin Meng polar regions. If he could do his best to help Zhu Xian survive the abyss as soon as possible, Long Chen could feel a little more at ease. Jianshi San and Long Yuan, who were already brimming with anger, no longer tried to suppress their anger. Jianshi San swung his sword, Frost, with absolute sharpness, towards Li Zhuoran. Although Long Yuan didn't talk about Zhu Xian, he more or less knew about the relationship between Long Chen and Zhu Xian. Therefore, when he saw Long Chen so angry, Long Yuan naturally knew what he had to do. Long Yuan roared and followed closely behind Jianshi San. The aura of Hong Meng around them had already exploded. At the same time, Long Yuan's devil dragon bloodline was uncontrollably stimulated. Long Chen had completely revealed his identity as a dragon. Therefore, Long Yuan didn't hide it any longer. When the devil dragon appeared, the stars sank and the earth shook. Just when the people of the two polar regions were shocked by the appearance of the devil dragon, Long Chen's heavenly dragon true body also roared. The heavenly dragon bloodline was slightly released, and the unstoppable aura of Hong Meng exploded in the sky. Chapter 21:12. When Huashanyu saw this scene in the distance, she couldn't help but snort coldly. She turned to Li Zhuoran and teased, "Zhu Xian, I didn't think that what you said before would come true so much. After a few hundred years, your illusory master has really come looking for you. What about now? Looking at your master's great momentum, don't tell me you don't want to personally deal with your master so that you can completely bear the crime of deceiving your master and destroying your ancestors?" Although her words were directed at Li Zhuoran, Huashanyu's actions were clearly to anger Long Chen, who had already lost his mind. Li Zhuoran scoffed at Huashanyu's actions. He coldly snorted and said, "I'll deal with these three who don't care about their lives. This old man doesn't have the energy to deal with the rest for the time being." Before Huashanyu and the rest could give a response, Li Zhuoran had already rushed forward. He directly wrapped around all the Hong Meng aura in this space and appeared in front of Long Chen, who was charging forward in an explosive manner. After which, Li Zhuoran suddenly pushed and the powerful and majestic Hong Meng aura instantly agglomerated. At this moment, the Hong Meng aura in this space actually solidified into substance in Li Zhuoran's hand. After which, without any modification, it directly faced Long Chen. Without any hesitation, it pierced through Chen Chen's heart and surged forward. Boom! Long Chen's transformation into the heavenly dragon true body made up for some of the inadequacies of his senior realm in some aspects. However, because the person Long Chen had to face was Li Zhuoran, who was infinitely close to the Hong Meng Dao ancestor 1,000 years ago, let alone now. Li Zhuoran also occupied Zhu Xian's 1 in 10,000 divine phoenix body. It had to be said that the current Li Zhuoran might have the same peak strength as he had 1,000 years ago. Naturally, it would be a piece of cake to deal with Long Chen by relying on such a powerful force. the heavenly dragon bloodline pressure around Longchen was completely absorbed by the Hongmeng Qi swept by Li Zhuoran. At this moment, Longchen seemed to have been imprisoned by some invisible force. For a moment, he was unable to react to the next step. However, taking advantage of this opportunity, Li Zhuoran once again condensed a force in the void and pointed at Longchen's life gate. He did not give Longchen any chance of survival. Master. At this moment of life and death crisis, Long Yuan, who had completely released the power of the devil dragon, was shocked. He immediately shouted at Longchen. Dong! Li Zhuoran did not use any sharp techniques. He only used the powerful impact of the Hongmeng Qi to completely lock Longchen in the space he controlled. It could be said that in this space, Longchen had completely lost control of his Hongmeng Qi. It was as if Li Zhuoran's Hongmeng Qi was suppressing Longchen. For a moment, Longchen was unable to react. In the blink of an eye, Longchen was already a fish on the chopping block. He could only silently wait for Li Zhuoran to make his last move. The last move was naturally to cut off Longchen's chance of survival. It could be seen that Li Zhuoran was also very careful. Kill! The incomparably sharp Hongmeng Qi pierced through the cracks in the space and approached Longchen with the momentum of sweeping away the wind and clouds. The powerful vibrations within were actually forcefully stripping away the entire Hongmeng space above the Tianfeng tribe. Just as this vast Qi was about to completely lock Longchen in place, another unstoppable Hongmeng Qi finally closed in on Li Zhuoran. From the looks of it, it was about to fight to the death with Li Zhuoran. Long Yuan had not released the full power of the devil dragon for a long time. Now, it was naturally an opportunity to release it. If he hesitated, Longchen would probably really lose his life to Li Zhuoran. The devil dragon's Qi successfully broke through the first Hongmeng Qi barrier released by Li Zhuoran. Just as Longchen's life was about to be cut off, the devil dragon's Qi finally collided with Li Zhuoran's second Qi. Qi. Evidently, Li Zhuoran did not expect such an abnormally strong attack from such a murderous force. When this force was already nearing his body, from the looks of it, it was likely that if he did not stop this attack, he would not be able to withstand it. Even if he could end Longchen's life again, he would definitely suffer serious injuries because of the impact this time. In the current situation, the Hongmeng Tianjing Stage 9 and above experts already had the absolute advantage in the Hongmeng Polar region. Therefore, at this critical juncture of the battle, if Longchen, a Stage 1 Hongmeng Tianjing Stage 9, were to implicate himself, it would be extremely disadvantageous for the future battle. With such hesitation, Li Zhuoran pondered deeply for a moment. Li Zhuoran did not expect that a person whose strength was only at Stage 6 of Hongmeng Tianjing Stage 9 could release such a powerful attack. If he did not block it, this attack could even seriously injure him. Fall to the ground? In this way, even if he could kill Longchen, so what? Thinking of this, Li Zhuoran finally made a choice. Give up this opportunity to fight against Long Yuan. In an instant, Li Zhuoran retracted the Qi around his body. Then, with a sharp flow of Qi, he directly rushed towards Long Yuan, who had already broken through his first Hongmeng Qi barrier. With this gap, Longchen naturally regained some consciousness. Then, Longchen did not care about the current situation. He hurriedly withdrew and retreated dozens of feet. Only then could he be considered to have escaped the battle. As for Long Yuan, he had to bear some things that he did not need to bear originally. Although Li Zhuoran counterattacked at the last minute, his powerful strength still suppressed Long Yuan's. Bang! The space around the two people directly collapsed because of the huge Hongmeng attack. A moment later, a figure suddenly retreated. Before this figure could stabilize his Qi, from the space that had collapsed due to the explosion, another wave of attacks shot out. Once again, several incomparably sharp Hongmeng attacks bombarded the retreating figure. At this moment, a piercingly cold sword Qi whistled and directly cut off these people's Hongmeng attacks. Long Yuan landed heavily on the ground. When Jianshi San helped him up, the demonic dragon Qi around Long Yuan had already disappeared. "How are you?" Jianzhi-san asked anxiously. Long Yuan violently spat out a mouthful of blood. Then, he looked at the sky and smiled at Long Chen, who was almost unharmed, and said, I can still hold on. However, I'm afraid that I won't be able to help much later. Chapter 21:13. At this time, Long Chen hurriedly rushed over. Seeing Jianzhi-san supporting Long Yuan, who was covered in blood, Long Chen couldn't help but pout and frown. It's my fault. I was careless. Long Yuan used the back of his hand to wipe away the blood at the corner of his mouth and said, Master, I'm fine. Next, it's up to you and Senior Jianzhi-san to deal with Senior Zhu Ziyin. I think that since Senior Zhu Ziyin still has a wisp of his spirit in his body, he must be able to help us. At this critical moment, he will help us. Long Chen hurriedly let out a long breath and said, 13, take care of Long Yuan. He must stay away from the Tianfeng tribe. Jianzhi-san nodded and said, Don't worry, Master. 13 knows what to do. Master, please be careful. 13 will be back in a moment. As soon as he finished speaking, Jianzhi-san didn't hesitate. He immediately dragged Long Yuan's body and flew into the distance. At this time, Li Zhuoran was no longer a threat. He gathered his qi again and shouted at Long Chen below, I didn't expect that there would be so many strange people around you. A person of the 6th stage of Hongmeng Tianjing was able to make me feel fear. You were able to survive my attack. Not bad indeed. However, this is of no use. Since the 2 people beside you have left, then you can go in peace. Hearing this, Hualei and Huayan, who had been standing behind Patriarch Luohua all this time, wanted to rush out and help Long Chen. Unexpectedly, before the 2 sisters could move, Patriarch Luohua warned them with the power of her spirit. She directly dissuaded the 2 of them. Before the 2 sisters could figure out the situation, Long Chen in the distance shook his head at Hualei and Huayan, indicating that they shouldn't make a move. Long Chen's figure slowly floated into the air. When he was level with Li Zhuoran, Long Chen's expression was resolute. He said sternly, Li Zhuoran, is it? I'm curious. What did you experience 1,000 years ago? His body is gone? Hearing this, Li Zhuoran couldn't help but be angry. He said, I wanted to let you live a little longer. I didn't expect you to be so impatient to live. At this moment, Long Chen, who was facing Li Zhuoran, shouted, Zhu Ziyin, if you can hear me, show yourself. In an instant, Li Zhuoran's expression changed drastically. First, the Hongmeng aura around Li Zhuoran fluctuated violently. Then, with the uncertainty of Hongmeng's aura, Li Zhuoran's reaction became more and more unstable. It was as if he was experiencing some kind of struggle. In the distance, Hua Shanyu saw this and couldn't help but say angrily, this Li Zhuoran, how could he be fooled by such a crude and obvious method of provocation? Once he is angry, the wisp of spirit in his body that he has suppressed with great difficulty will be able to take advantage of this opportunity. Taking advantage of the opportunity to become active, you really can achieve great things. Hua Shanyu was observing the situation. Perhaps it was because he was an outsider, but he could see Long Chen's every move quite clearly. After that, Old Mother of Heavenly Yin, who was beside Hua Shanyu, said, this can't be blamed on Senior Li Zhuoran. Who among us doesn't know that what happened 1,000 years ago is a hurdle that Li Zhuoran will never be able to overcome in his lifetime? How could this Long Chen know about what happened 1,000 years ago in the polar regions? He is indeed not simple. The heavenly dragon's body, the cultivation method of the spirit, and the spirit technique. These advantages are actually gathered in one body. It can be considered this person's fierceness. Wu Kuang nodded. Hua Shanyu's expression was slightly gloomy as he said, if not, the great elder of my Tao God Tower wouldn't have fallen in the hands of such a person. Old Mother of Heavenly Yin continued, but thinking about it, that brat's actions this time won't be able to do anything big. Even if he can let Zhu Ziyin's soul temporarily control his body, so what? I still don't believe that he can survive under Zhu Ziyin's heavenly punishment. The soul that comes down can't even compare to a remnant soul that has been suppressed for hundreds of years? Huashanyu nodded and said to Wu Kuang, Hall Master, is the matter we arranged before still useful? Wu Kuang smiled slightly and said, I just received the news. It seems like that person is already making preparations. He is waiting for an important opportunity to coordinate with the outside. As long as we get rid of one of Patriarch Zishu and Patriarch Luohua, we can control the situation. It will be completely in our hands. Huashanyu said, it has to be said that although this person from the Fangsun tribe is alone, his effect will be greater than the entire Tianfeng tribe. It's better to clean up that group of trash from the Tianfeng tribe after this battle. Otherwise, when our Lin Meng polar region really takes over the Hong Meng polar region in the future, this group of people will think that they have contributed the most and will have some trivial matters with us. Troublesome. Wu Kuang snorted coldly. Huashanyu hurriedly waved his hand and said, we can complain a little, but we really can't do this. Once we do something like burning the bridge after crossing the river, our reputation will really be gone. We won't care about it in the future. No matter what, we still have to rely on this Tianfeng tribe to rule the Hong Meng polar region's indigenous people. This can also put our minds at ease. Hearing this, Wu Kuang's face was full of helplessness. He couldn't help but look at the people from the Hong Meng polar region who were confronting them in the distance. It seemed that he was looking for traces of this person. In midair, Li Zhuoran's expression changed. The aura of the Hong Meng polar region around him had already exploded several times. Most of the explosions were extremely fierce, and even Longchen was affected a lot. Master. Just as his expression was fluctuating, a familiar voice came out from Li Zhuoran's mouth. Immediately, Longchen, who had been waiting for a long time, saw a glimmer of hope. Zhu Xin, hold on. You must hold on. Longchen naturally knew the pain that Zhu Xin was experiencing at this moment, but there wasn't much he could do now. Master. Kill me quickly. As soon as his voice fell, Longchen couldn't help but be shocked. Zhu Xin was struggling to say such words. Kill me, there's only one way. In an instant, Longchen seemed to have understood something. Divine Phoenix Body, Nirvana Rebirth? Longchen let out a long breath. Hong Meng polar region's aura surged around him. He said, I will. Zhu Xin, wait for me, you must wait for me. Master. Soon, after receiving Longchen's reply, Li Zhuoran's expression began to change rapidly. The friendly light in his eyes slowly dissipated. You're tuning into the Mythic Realms YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.